Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of the Unified PGCQ Open Qualifiers here on the Team Ambition main stream. We are once again going to be covering the Team Ambition main roster throughout their OQ journey as they hunt for that third win to secure themselves in top 16, maybe even searching for a fourth one here today. My name is Gordo. I am joined tonight by Sulpan once again. And Sulpan, we saw some crazy games yesterday, a really long 45-minute banger, and it all ended up with Team Ambition going 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, we got every bit of team ambition going 1-1 on the day yesterday, so everyone's all tied up. And of course, as things just kind of tend to go in proving grounds, we have a civil war here on this very channel. Team Ambition Blaze will be taking on the Team Ambition main roster here, fighting for the coveted 2-1 spot, moving on into the rest of the open qualifier matches.
Yeah, we're stealing a little bit of content away from the TA2 stream over there, as they're going to be covering Team Ambition Black for the first game today. We get the civil war here between TA and TA Blaze. TA Blaze had a solid day yesterday for their seeding. They were coming into the day seeded, I think it was 27th overall. They started out the day with a loss to Fear, but came back in round 2 with a win versus Wolfpack and are now in that 1-1 bracket, the same as the TA main squad, which is certainly going to make for a pretty exciting grudge match between the two teams that have already been scrimming against one another in the last couple of days.
I think it'll be super interesting. I think overall, Team Ambition Blaze's roster looks a little bit more aggressive. They drafted really interesting team fighting compositions, just kind of ran at you really, really quick. Whereas I think yesterday we kind of saw from the main roster drafts that centered around these skirmishing and pick oriented styles. Although with the interview we had with Nell last night as well, it almost seems like the Team Ambition main roster might be trying to change up that style and kind of switch the dynamic here going into the second day.
Yeah, the 1-1s across the board really, to me, speak to something about this PGCQOQ that I was talking about even before the tournament started. I tweeted this out yesterday, but for anybody who isn't enlightened enough to follow Gordo Casts on Twitter, it is this team and these sets of teams are so stacked this split versus the last one. They're so much more competitive with one another that it really opens up an opportunity for a lot of these kind of variant results that we've already gotten to see both on this stream and outside of it over the last couple of days. I mean, a great like kind of measuring stick for you to look at to determine just how strong these teams have become is the California Irvine roster, because they're back here with the exact same team that they were running in spring, all the same 5 players. In summer PGQOQ number 2, they were the 14th seed overall, and now they're the 21st. So they've dropped a whole bunch of slots, pretty much a fifth of the way down the entire set of teams, without even changing anything. It's just the competition getting better, even with teams like Bogged and Radiance and Wildcard exiting the scene. They've been replaced, and even more so, just pushing some of these other teams farther down the bracket just by virtue of how much stronger some of these other teams have become.
It just seems a little bit crazy to me too. I mean, UCI, they're top 8 in CELO right now. I'm gonna be heading over to that LAN tournament in a little bit. They took a game off of Golden Guardians Academy, I think it was, in a best of 5 last split. Losing track of the numbers a little bit, but I know they
Mhm.
took at least one game off that team. So they're a powerful roster. I do have them making a comeback here today and going undefeated on the rest of these last 3 games. Because like you said, they're a very powerful team. They have that team cohesion. But we're here to talk about ambition. I want to talk about a little bit about matchups. I think up in the top lane is where we're going to see a lot of this matchup highlighted again, where you have Prankaroo coming in as kind of the most tenured player here for Blaze.
Yeah, absolutely. Been playing on Grandview University's roster for this last year. Prankaroo has been doing pretty well. We saw a solid performance from Mabud in both games yesterday as well. His Tryndamere up against Hybrids was really one of the brighter points, facing off against RBG Esports, and then his Aatrox in game number 2 up against Here for T-Shirt also super valuable in their win. But if we want to talk about value, though, we have got to talk about Strumpist's performance yesterday. This guy was nuts. I went back and watched through the Here for T-Shirt VOD again earlier today, and the number of turrets he took solo on split pushes were completely insane, up to and including Nexus turrets, and even the Nexus pairing up with Mabud to close out the game at the very end there. He was really hard carrying the team there in that second game. They've got him to thank pretty heavily for the 1-1 finish. And, hopefully he gets to share the load a little bit today, but definitely going to be a player to keep an eye on in today's games.
It was a hero's performance for sure, bringing just so much attention down to wherever he was split pushing. You saw Team Ambition taking objectives off of the pressure he was putting on the enemy base. And it's what they needed that game too, right? They were playing in such a heavy team fighting composition, which is the similar style to what Blaze likes to play. They ran a absolutely crazy Kled comp yesterday. It was, I believe, Kled, Lee Sin, I'm blanking on the mid they had, Cannon.
And
So they were just really playing into this heavy run at you style. Um, and when you have no options for disengage, your only option at that point is a split push. And Team Ambition main roster did a really good job of showcasing that yesterday. So I wouldn't be surprised if they opt into that same skirmishing style. But again, like Nelv said, I'm almost expecting we get a 5 versus 5, just absolute bloodbath on stream today.
yeah, absolutely. And, Team Ambition has experienced a big changing of the guard this split. Five new players, new coach, new everything coming into the main roster. But Rock on High and Deity both were acting as subs for that Team Ambition main roster last split. And so coming in with, that little bit of experience, presumably they got a little bit of scrim time. They got to play behind Anticipation and Chookies, or Nemesis 9 and Chookies, rather. They are now making their jump up to the main stage as part of Team Ambition Blaze. Going to be really fun to get to see them play out today. So we look to be getting ready to get into draft here. I can see some of these picks have come up around us. We're going to be getting into picks and bans pretty shortly.
It's gonna be exciting for sure. As I think both these teams, I mean, I'm really just curious how the drafting style is going to come out today because Team Ambition made that statement yesterday. They want to change up the style. Will that be shown in this first game, or are they going to try and continue the success they had, arguable success, as it was a very, very close game and very, very dangerous for them? A little bit of a nail biter, but they managed to pull out the win, right? So if you can still replicate that pick comp success, why not run it against a team that wants to just dive you with a full on, in your face dive comp style?
Yeah, the Olaf ban going to lead us off here from the Team Ambition main squad. Slapper, somebody who I'm really going to be keeping an eye on in this game. Sarcasm had a pretty shaky start yesterday. To be expected. This is going to be his first Proving Grounds event, but definitely was a little bit of a weak point for the squad, at least in day number one. Ended up getting picked off, ended up dying a lot in those team fights on the Lee Sin and the Graves. And it looks like Team Ambition maybe a little bit conscious of that, are going to start off by banning away what might be some of Slapper's stronger, more aggressive picks in the jungle, the Olaf and the Nocturne. And in response, looks like Sarcasm rather is going to end up losing out on his Graves.
And one thing that's interesting at this open qualifier is that it's the first competitive look we're getting at new Talia and new Olaf. Two champions that aren't available for picks in CLOL, not available to MSI because they're playing on previous patches, right? But here in open qualifier, those champs are ready to go. Gangplank also getting banned out. Definitely a pick that Ambition Blaze utilized very heavily yesterday in their second game to find a victory.
Yeah, and the Talia is something that's been oddly missing for me, at least yesterday in our games here. That champion, seen a lot of complaining about it. Seen a lot of people talking about it being maybe a little bit too strong. Same with that Wukong that's going to get locked in here for the side of Team Ambition. But didn't really see too much Talia yesterday from anybody. I didn't really see it hit the bans. Didn't really see it hit the picks. We'll see if maybe that changes around today. But the Wukong for Mabud likely going to be going on over to Sarcasm, but could still be that flex pick.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see Wukong get picked first. I like the look here. They can really draft into a skirmishing or a team fight style just based on the Cyclone itself. Trundle, a strong response here, can step away some of those resistances. Bruisers are building much more into these more resistance-oriented items. You have things like Ma, Death's Dance, and of course the Guardian Angel. Those are all resistances that can be stolen away and just help chunk down that Wukong a little quicker.
Yeah, absolutely here, and that's going to get responded to by the Trundle. And the Rise is an interesting one that we see coming through, likely for Rock on High here. This is a pick that he's played a fair bit of, and is not going to be a surprise to see in Rock on High's hands, but it's a surprise to see locked on in on this patch at all. A lot of people have been lamenting the death of Rise, but seems like that was a little bit overstated. We've gotten to see him a bit at MSI as well. He's in the same state here that he was there. His solo queue win rate dipping lower and lower with every day, but that's long been the Rise story. It looks like it's not going to be enough to change things around this time, but Stromp is going to go with an old school Rise counter pick in the form of this Cassiopeia.
I was almost hoping and crossed my fingers we're going to see the tally get brought out here on this game as we were talking about it, but looks like Team Ambition is going for this much more team-oriented style. Actually, for the first time ever, picking up both solo lanes in the first round draft. This is a complete switch up from what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, that makes the Bryce pick even weirder too, right? Because if you want that kind of global pressure, you really think that the Talia would once again be ripe for the picking there. Seems like it should really be Rise 2.0 in a lot of these drafts, but the Rise is going to be what they end up going for. The Kog'Maw now going to be the lock in here from the side of TA Blaze. They did play this yesterday, giving it over to Les, the rookie in the AD position. And in game number 2, they found themselves a win against Wolfpack with it.
Not a lot of options here. I mean, they can look for some bans onto the enemy supports that pair really well with the Kog'Maw. Obviously, the Lulu, I can't imagine gets through this ban phase. But on the opposite side, they're going to try and ban out some of those engaged supports that want to dominate the lane. Kai'Sa Nautilus was picked up by the main Ambition roster yesterday, while Karma Kog'Maw was the play for Team Ambition Blaze yesterday.
Yeah, this will be Pseudo's first game off the Nautilus of the Open Qualifier here. Played at both games yesterday, so we'll see what else he has got in the tank. And now some of those classic Kog'Maw duos going to get banned away. The Lulu, the first one. We saw from here for T-shirt yesterday, they busted out the Soraka Kog'Maw in their game 1. Maybe something that we could see in the pool for Deity. Looking over at his history there, he's played a few different things. The Karma has to be one to keep in mind as well. Feels like that pick has been very strong, been really heavily prioritized by some of the higher tier teams. And there's the ban being hovered, and there's the ban being locked in.
I think it's a little bit less orthodox, but I'd actually love to see the Alistar here. Alistar's ultimate doesn't actually give him bonus resistances, it just gives him flat damage reduction. So when Trundle ults him, he's not really stealing away that much away from the Alistar. It's not a horrible pick into the Rise either, because you have that option to engage within the same range that Rise has on his entire kit. Although the Gwen pick, I think, makes the Alistar look a little bit less juicy.
Yeah, potentially here. That is a good call out though on the Trundle there. You know, the problem with taking something like the Leona is that the Eclipse does give you those resistances, and that's when, the Trundle really gets to feast on you a little bit more. Gwen going to be the lock-in though, presumably going to be going up towards the top lane. We've seen some flexing around of Gwen jungle both at MSI and in the OQs yesterday, but with that Trundle already in the tank, you got to believe that it is going to be going up for Prankaroo in the top lane to face off against this Gnar, and now it's a bot lane lock-in time for Psycho and Pseudo. The Zeri going to be the first one being hovered here. Pseudo going to follow up soon. Maybe going to be a little bit of a Zeri Yumi look. There's a lot of options here that they could look to pair up with that one.
Yeah, I feel like it's always a little bit risky to pick something like the Yuumi into the Kog'Maw because you don't want to just let that lane farm up and scale, and Yumi's certainly not the lane dominant support that you might expect to get picked into a scaling pick. Although Yumi, it just pairs extremely well with the Zarya, like you mentioned, so it's not a uh, completely out of the realm option, but it will end up just being that Leona. So heavy engage here from Team Ambition. So many crowd control options to start off fights through the Leona, Gnar, and Wukong.
Yeah, although right as I say, the issue with taking the Leona into the Trundle, they completely disregard it. They go for the Leona anyway. And it does what Leona does. It presents the CC, it presents the option for engages, but you got to be a little bit wary of how that Eclipse plus Subjugate interaction goes. Gives him a whole bunch of stats to steal away, so it makes the Trundle super tanky, and it also means that once Eclipse wears off, you're left with like really, really low stats because you still have all of those Eclipse values being taken away. So it's definitely a tough scenario to be in once it does happen. Coming into the later game, though, you've got to believe that Slapper is going to maybe be a little bit more interested in ulting some of the more true frontliners, somebody like that Mega Gnar, somebody like that Wukong, who's going to have the stone skin as well, making him even more tanky. Although three magic damage dealers here on the side of Team Ambition Blaze. At least Kog'Maw doing a little bit of hybrid work there, but certainly going to present a fair amount of magic damage himself with that Bioarcane Barrage. Makes it, maybe a good selection of champions to take up against this Wukong, but does also open an opportunity to maybe itemize a little bit more magic resistance here for the Team Ambition main squad.
Yeah, that's a big point of what people have been talking about is that the Death Stance Maw combo is just absolutely insane because Death Stance has that damage over time effect with some of the upfront damage that might come from mages.
Mhm.
So even though it's an armor item, it's still good into burst mages. And then Maw, because it's so because it is just like the new best option for bruisers to build in terms of magic resist options. it has that giant shield. So they use all their bursts to get to your Moss shield, and then there's a Moss shield they have to also get through. All the while, Death Stance is healing you back to full. So Strumpus and Mabud have really good build options this game to try and counter this composition.
Yeah, they absolutely do here, and that's you can build them in the other order too. So you can go for the Maw first and foremost, and that may very well be something that we see Mabut and Sarcasm end up going for this game, just to make sure that they're going to be able to brawl it out a little bit more effectively. Don't want to totally disregard the Trundle damage. Trundle does do a fair bit of work, especially if he goes for that press the attack to try to make a little bit more early plays happen. But really going to vary based on what they decide they want to go for in regards to play style. Really going to be interested to check out this bottom lane as well. Scaling selections going for both sides here. But the Zeri feels really, really smart for the side of Psycho. It's going to be very tough for this team composition to really lock down the Zeri. They don't have a lot of targeted CC. You know, if you get an auto attack from the Braum in there or something, you can rely on concussive blows. But other than that, you're really going to be pretty reliant on, the range advantage that the Kog'Maw represents, and maybe a really, really well-placed pillar to make it tough for Zeri to move around, or, Rise Rune Prison as well if she gets in range. But if Psycho plays this, really, really well, if he keeps to his proper distances, if he dodges and weaves in and out and builds up that movement speed with the Lightning Crash, it's going to be very tough to lock down this area, and she could really pop off this game.
I think it's also important to notice that this is the scaling composition, right? You mentioned the Rise and the Kog'Maw, just incredibly powerful scaling picks. Gwen's fairly happy because she gets to play into 3 melees-ish this time. Nar's kind of that hybrid, right? But either way, you have just these really, really powerful picks that will scale up into the later stages of the game. And this is what Team Ambition's main roster struggled against yesterday. It was the Jinx in the base, holding down the fort for just so long against their onslaught. And of course, eventually they found that the double teleport play for the back door. But these kind of stall out the game, scaling compositions can be really, really powerful. Trundle Pillar as well going to have some incredible effectiveness this game against the Leona and the Cassiopeia, looking for ganks, looking for team fight disruption. There are a lot of options here for Team Ambition Blaze to find the victory, but they do have to be very cognizant of the main roster's ability to just win a straight up 5v5 at any objective.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, going to be some great team fighting options from both sides. They're really going to come down to the ADs. We talked about the Zeri. Want to talk about the Kog'Maw too. Really a pick that's fallen by the wayside throughout a lot of this season. The Jinx of Felios kind of representing that same kind of late game powerhouse that you would generally expect. In that role, but now with them nerfed away, Kog'Maw's had the opportunity to make a little bit of a step up in this last couple of patches, and we are starting to see teams really start to respect that pick a little bit more, even taking it in first rounds blind, like Team Ambition did here. The aggressive ADs, aside from the Lucian, maybe not quite as big of an option. They got to ban away the Misfortune here. The Kallista's bugged, so nobody's taken it, and that really leaves you the opportunity to go for something like this Kog'Maw, who's really going to be a lot more of a menace.
And Kog'Maw for sure. I mean, it really just is going to come into scaling. Obviously, Team Ambition is going to have to play around early dragons this game. You have the early game jungler in the Wukong that can really try to enable one of your solo lanes, get them to that point where they can continuously shove in, and then you can try and get the early drakes. But Trundle excels at taking dragons early, excels at those counter ganks. I'm really looking at Slapper to try and read Sarcasm extremely well this game and always be there for that 2v2. A big part of that matchup with Trundle and really just about anyone is that your ganks aren't necessarily stronger than most early game junglers, but the ability for you to steal away AD on top of the massive healing you get off of a kill using something like Triumph if you end up taking that rune, or just the Trundle passive in the W zone, you can get so much of that health back and then just completely flip a fight on its head just by hitting the right targets.
Yeah, absolutely. We're about to throw it to a delay here so that we can get loaded on up into the game. Quick little break. But before we do, want to shout out Team Ambition is going to be hosting a giveaway here to celebrate 600 followers. Going to be giving away two $10 RP cards. You can go into the Discord, check out that announcements channel, and give it a little like to join that giveaway. And follow all of the Team Ambition socials on Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. You can find those all here on the Twitch channel. Feel free to get yourself on in there for that giveaway. We will be doing it at the end of the stream tonight, regardless of what the result for Team Ambition ends up being. We will see you all there, and we will see you all in a couple of minutes when we get onto the Rift for our first game of the night and our third game of the Open Qualifier. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's stream of Team Ambition run here in the Unified PGCQ Open Qualifiers. Got the TA Civil War here, Team Ambition taking on TA Blaze. Both of these teams sitting at 1-1, looking to improve to 2-1. No elimination on the line here, though. Remember, 3-2 is a good enough record to qualify to that top 16, and that has got to be the first thing on all of these teams' minds coming into this tournament.
Absolutely. No one wants to drop any game here at this point, as you lose one and then it's no more after that. You got to win your next two guaranteed. Every Team Ambition roster ended up going 1-1 on the last day. We have the Civil War here, like you mentioned. Ward starts for both these junglers. Looks like Slapper just wants to get this early vision down to prevent an early ward from Sarcasm, as every team looking like they're just happy to kind of handshake the vision here and start with both junglers completely blind.
Yeah, we saw this from Team Ambition pretty much both games yesterday as well, looking not to do too much in the early game, just playing it safe, making sure that all of their entrances are covered, maybe getting a little bit of defensive vision like they did in that topside river there, but otherwise not looking to pressure the other team too much at that level 1 point. Starting off their laning phases here. It's like nothing too out of the ordinary there. Once again, though, not going to leash for Sarcasm. That's also something that we've seen pretty consistently from them in every game so far.
I think this is the first game, though, where really Team Ambition can't take a huge advantage out of it. You have the Gnar into Gwen, and my buddy even walking to lane fairly late here to not really try and establish any push control, level 2 control over the Gwen in lane. But instead, you just have Sarcasm starting here solo, on with the bot lane, meeting up in the middle of the lane the exact same time with their opponents. So no one's really getting any kind of crazy advantage off this leashless start this time, but the same can be said for Team Ambition plays.
Yep, definitely. It's a way to equalize it, I suppose, from both teams, if they even knew it was going down. Pseudo, though, going to tick over to level 2 and going to immediately start off the play here onto Deity, getting chunked out down to below 200 HP. Will be able to back away. Stay alive there, but nice tick up the level 2 there for the Psycho and Pseudo in the bot lane, getting aggressive early on.
Yeah, that's a big point there in the bottom lane. If you are even in levels against Leona, you are actually technically behind, because she'll just walk up, stun you, and they'll win that trade super, super hard. Does burn the Ignite, but Deity did end up dropping that Exhaust as well, so an even trade of summoners here in the bottom lane, the aggressive and defensive burn, respectively, for each side here in the bot.
Sure here, and that does give control of the wave over to Psycho and Pseudo. They are going to look to see if they can zone Deity off some of that early CS, and a trade of offensive summoners from the supports as well. Deity going to be down that Exhaust, Pseudo down the Ignite, to mean that once these fights start to break out, maybe a little bit less summoner spell intervention going to take place as the junglers meet in the bottom river here, but Sarcasm is the first to the play, and the priority in bot lane is in favor of Team Ambition main team here. They will be able to secure themselves that crab.
Yeah, this is the consequence of not knowing where the other jungler is starting. Because Slapper didn't know where the Wukong starts here, he's assuming that maybe he's going topside, he can go and try and play for the scuttle, but because Sarcasm has Psycho and Pseudo both pushing up here, they'll have the first rotation, and so he's just forced off the Scuttle Crab, and now we'll have to look towards the top side off the back of this recall.
Absolutely will here. We'll find out if there's going to be an opportunity to double crab here for Sarcasm. Did go on back to his Krugs. It's like Slapper's going to make that same move. See if Sarcasm manages to get on up there in time to maybe contest that one. Prankaroo laying down vision, anticipating that it might come his way right afterwards. And a teleport in a mid lane from Strompist seems to speak towards a desire to play aggressively towards this top side. We can even see Pseudo making a move towards the mid lane fresh off his recall.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of the tempo advantage you're now seeing as a result of that Scuttle Crab play happening. So because Sarcasm was able to get his Krugs and back, he'll have a slight gold advantage. Won't amount to much here in this case, but the EXP and gold is currently higher than that of Slapper. Slapper is actually rotating here towards mid lane and will actually miss out on that Scuttle, so Sarcasm earning some points towards those coveted missions, as he will get the double Scuttle here over Slapper.
And I think this is something that Team Ambition was really good at yesterday as well. Their early games look solid. Their early game macro, moving around the map, pushing the advantages that they had, covering their weak points for the most part were pretty good. It was the mid and later game team fights where things started to fall apart a little bit. See if they're able to step that game up, coming up against their sister team here in the form of Blaze. Well, Flapper is returned back to his bottom side as his camps respawned. Want to keep an eye. The junglers are desynced like this if they're going to look for any sorts of plays, but looks like it's just going to be that safe clear for the time being. Nobody looking to pressure onto anything too hard, at least before that dragon really becomes an issue.
I love this from Sarcasm. You're seeing the Mia pings go down on the map there, and it's directly on the camps where the Wolves and Gromp are. So at first he hit the missing ping over the Raptors. He's just calling out Slapper's location to his team. You can kind of tell that right now on the map. It's fairly obvious where the enemy jungler is moving if you manage to see them on that top side like they did. So they know exactly what Slapper's up to, and it should keep this in or every lane perfectly safe here as they try and move towards this dragon with every lane shoving.
Look at this. They're syncing the crashes on the bot and mid waves to move on in towards this dragon. They will be able to secure it for themselves likely as a result. Rise hovering around. Rock on high wants to potentially move on in. Prankaroo, though, is the first to hit level 6 in the top lane, looking to pressure onto Mabud, using that little threading going on forward, trying to chunk out the little Yordle, but Mabud will be able to escape. Will get a little hop onto the minions and will be able to farm on out this wave.
A nice play there in the top lane from Prankaroo. Winning out on that trade does bring the Ghost to at least force out this defensive style from Mabud. Gets the crash in though, and we'll be able to get a nice recall off that wave landing into the tower. On the opposite side of the map, we do have the dragon picked up. Team Ambition doing exactly what they need to do this game, which is taking early dragons so that they can force Team Ambition Blaze to fight them at 3rd and 4th dragon.
For sure, and that is successfully being executed thus far. A little bit of a 500 gold lead in favor of the main team as they start looking towards some sort play in the mid lane, at least Pseudo roaming on over there, seeing if an opportunity will present itself. Getting ready to set up potentially for the Scuttle Crab, but actually a topside move from Sarcasm. He knows his blue buff is respawning, wants to secure that for himself.
I'm liking the moves here from Pseudo. He knows that he can't really gank Rock on high here, but because the wave was crashed in bot lane, just looks to roam to mid and just hover the Cassiopeia here as Cassiopeia looks for the crash. That'll prevent Slapper from being able to hit any kind of crazy gank here in the 1 versus 2. It would result in burn summoners if he opted for the gank, but Slapper will actually spot out Pseudo here. We might end up getting a slight skirmish.
Tourist Trompist wants to be keeping his wits about him here. Slapper is hovering in the area. He does have his support in the zone as well. Potentially going to be Pseudo looking to respond to that. The recall will get channeled by Slapper. He will return back into that base. Coming back on out, looking towards the bottom side now. Rift Herald will be spawning here in 8 seconds. They are overloading the top side for Team Ambition here. Looks like they are going to try to secure themselves that Rift Herald, and doesn't look like it's going to get responded to by Slapper or TA Blaze at all.
It looks like we're going to get a very slow game here out of Team Ambition Blaze. So they don't want these early skirmishes, like we mentioned. They have this really good scaling composition. Gwen will do really well in late game team fights with all the melees that'll be involved. Ryze and Kog'Maw, obviously, just very traditional scaling picks. So as long as they don't fall too far behind, they'll be just fine playing this game out into the late game. The problem here for Team Ambition is that they have to make all the moves. The main roster is in the driver's seat here, and it's up to them to create these advantages to make sure they can find a big enough gold lead that despite the scaling picks for Team Ambition Blaze, it'll be too late. The game should be over before those picks come online.
And there are some factors kind of going towards Team Ambition's side here. You know, they have access to a lot more CC than the Team Ambition Blaze roster does. They have access to this Cassiopeia to restrict the mobility options, and they have all the mobility that Zeri brings to the table as well without a lot of ways to lock her down. So even getting into some of these later game fights, there's angles that Team Ambition main team can try to abuse to try to get advantages for themselves. But as you said, the cleaner path is certainly to just keep playing out this macro game, generate themselves an advantage, and try to close out that way.
One thing I like here as well is you can kind of tell from the vision game what Team Ambition Blaze is banking on. They've got so many wards around the bottom side of the map right now. They're just trying to make sure that if Wukong looks for the gank, they'll be able to spot him through this vision. That's also why Rock on High is playing towards the bottom side. If Wukong tries to gank through topside, he'll be forced to burn his summoner just to close the gap and get that ultimate off for the knockup. They did end up seeing him on that deep ward that Rock on High placed himself on the Raptors, so they do know that Sarcasm's toward the spot side, so both these lanes will have to play safe.
Sure. Bud moving forward onto Prankaroo here. Just to dodge away from the snip, but Slapper is moving towards the top lane. Might look for his first gank here. Mabud gonna have to play carefully. There goes the Pillar of Ice, and Mabud has no options left to go anywhere. He's gonna get picked up for first blood. Mabud going to give that one on over to Slapper.
There was a small outplay angle there. for Mabud, and he would look for it with that flash. If he manages to dodge out on that damage, you can absolutely turn that one around and at least get a 1-for-1 kill with the Mega Gnar. Unfortunately, auto attacks do end up buffering through flash, so not enough health to make the outplay happen, and Mega Gnar would have come online just a little bit too late to pull off that play.
Sarcasm, though, looking to make a response towards the top lane. Gonna get the flash out of Slapper. Pankru gonna be able to finish the recall in the bush, so we'll be safe. We'll be regenerating back at the base, coming back out towards the top lane. Sarcasm does get that flash for himself, though. Will be a potential advantage in the jungle going forward, and he's gonna secure the top scuttle while he's at it.
Give me the shove in here. Another dragon spawning in 15 seconds, so you're going to expect to see all these lanes start rotating down. Sarcasm also on the way. They're not willing to give up any of these dragon stacks. They want to make sure they get this soul online as quickly as possible.
Definitely. Dragon in 5 seconds, and that means Team Ambition sending at least 4 members down towards this side. Mabud has expended the teleport. Prankaroo does still have access to his. Is going to be that non-enhanced teleport, though. Can't actually get towards any wards. Going to have to teleport to a turret, if anything. And based on the recalls being generated by Deity and Slapper, it looks like this is going to be second Dragon going for free to Team Ambition.
Fairly clean game being played out here. They do also still have the Herald in the pocket. So Sarcasm has this option to try and look for any kind of all-in on any lane, and then pop the Herald and get an insane advantage in any lane that he wants. I imagine that'll go over towards mid or top, but bot lane, just because of the way they're playing so safe, and with the Braum ultimate down there with the exhaust, it feels a little bit harder to make a play there. I'd imagine it'll be one of these solo laners as the target.
Very likely. This one plate has already gone over towards either side of the top lane. Could also just be looking to break open through mid. Strampus has managed to take himself one plate already. There goes that Rift Herald into the mid lane. Teleport going to be channeled by Rock on High towards the mid lane to be able to respond. Meanwhile, Slapper fishing around for another gank in the top lane. Knows that Mabud has already expended the flash, but not going to find a good angle to go on in. Sarcasm arriving towards the top lane in time to respond.
Already up there to meet the gank. No one wants to go for these crazy 2 versus 2 plays just yet, as no team really has a sizable advantage over the other. Pseudo, though, might be looking for someone on Rise. That's a flash stun.
Going for the flash, going for the solar flare as well. Rock on High going to get locked down for a while here. Zenith play to follow on through, but Psycho can't get the damage on to Rock on High quite yet. Now, let's look over towards Les. Les, not quite as mobile on this Cogball. Might be forced to flash. Is going to. Might have to expend the cleanse as well if he continues to get chased, but will be able to create enough distance. Multiple summoners blown from Team Ambition Blaze. More than expended on Team Ambition main team side, but no kills going to end up going over.
That's a defensively burned flash, and I think that mid lane just became a whole lot juicier looking for Sarcasm here on the Herald. They can look for that mid dive, try and get that thing down, and end up cracking a turret here, hopefully. Did the Herald expire? I don't see it in his inventory anymore. Did I just miss the placement?
Yeah, he placed it mid. He got a couple
I'm
plays
totally
there.
blind.
Mabud going to get engaged on, though. Going to have to use the Gnar. Will end up going down to the ultimate from Gwen, though. Prankaroo gets a kill, the second up against Mabud this game, but it is going to be first turret picked up for Strampus. Lots of gold getting funneled into Cassiopeia and this main carry that has been so stable for Team Ambition over the ZOQ so far.
And now that mid is cracked, and just with the mana advantage they have on the map, every camp being taken away. This is something that Team Ambition did so much yesterday. They rotate laners to make sure that Sarcasm can secure camps over the enemy jungler. You steal out CS away, you create advantages for yourself there, and you'll just have an insane... That'll be one member stronger on the front line in the team fight.
For sure. And now getting some plate gold over into Psycho. The plates will expire, so not going to be too much going over towards that Zeri, but will give some opportunity to deal a little bit of damage to the turret. It will give at least some gold going towards that scaling pick in the bottom lane. Working towards the Trinity Force. Les going to arrive to catch this wave, and that's going to be Psycho's signal to back out off.
Yeah, they have the full 2 minutes here to try and play for Dragon, so I think Rift Herald will definitely be on the table here for Ambition. They're constantly pursuing these objectives, and while the second Herald doesn't matter as much unless you can get a tier 2 turret with it, it's still be nice to have as just something that can create some space for them on the map, even knocking down to tier 1 to just enable them to take more dragons in this game.
A 1.5k gold lead going over to Team Ambition. Nothing crazy to write home about quite yet, but just solid macro play, producing early advantages. Really going to see this start to explode at the next dragon. Or one Slapper face checks into Sarcasm. The first Cyclone knockup going to land, and over the wall goes Sarcasm once again. Slapper going to be completely invaded on by every side, going to end up falling down. Now Sarcasm can keep the chase going on to Deity. No more knockups available, but Psycho pretty fast on this Zeri. Can just keep firing shots towards the Braum. One or two more will be able to do it. He's so low on HP, but instead it's going to be less. Turning it back around towards Psycho, and now a big teleport from Prankaroo could spell the end for the Team Ambition main team. Pseudo and Sarcasm going to have to head for the hills. Strampist arriving just in time, going to try to turn the damage forward on to this top laner, and the follow-up with that Petrifying Gaze going to be enough to take out the Gwen, but now less pouring in the damage. Rock on high here to keep the CC going as well. Strampist flashes over the wall, survives at just a sliver of HP as Mabut arrives as well, but he's got no rage. Not going to be able to transform anytime soon, but Sarcasm dives back towards the back line to be able to get onto Deity. Less going to be able to pick up one more. He manages to secure the kill onto Strampist with one more of that living artillery, and it's going to end up being about a 3 or 4 for 3 for the side of Team Ambition Blaze.
That was a whole 1-minute fight there. It took so long off the start of Slapper looking for some vision off the back of an invade, as we're getting caught out by Sarcasm there in the jungle, and then just chased down by everyone. You have to do a replay here to showcase some of this action. Can't imagine we're going to see all of it, but this is where the bot lane teleport came in. Prankaroo, you see here, burns Hollowed Mist super early, which allows Strampus to actually just land so much damage. There's no more defensive utility here. Braum's too far back and too low to really help with the Unbreakable Will, and is just forced all the way back. Then Rock on High finally gets the rotation over, has the flank here on the rise, is forced up towards Strampus though. And now he's the only healthy member. I love this look from Sarcasm, just so aggressive on the Wukong, making sure they can get at least one more pick off in this fight. And then, unfortunately, on a ward there for Strampus, not long for this world when you're that low on Cassiopeia, in range of a Kog'Maw.
Yeah, no, the Living Artillery really coming up huge there. Great chaining of CC there from Pseudo and Strampist especially, but it just doesn't end up being enough. But this Dragon still going to be what they want to fight over. Would be Soul Point going over to the main team, so they do not want to give this over to Blaze. Blaze wants to contest, though, getting slowed up by the Miasma, but not stopping too much of the invade. Keep an eye on Les here. He's got so much damage on the Kog'Maw. They will be able to steal away the Drake, but now here starts off the fight. Pseudo dives into the back line, but not going to be joined by Sarcasm, so no knockups, no other CC to join them. That means the team's going to have to back away. Ships pass in the night, and only going to be Dragon for the side of Blaze.
It's a little bit rough here, actually, for Team Ambition. They end up losing the Dragon Snowball on the Soul. The ultimate would have been really, really nice this game for Zeri Wukong. Obviously, two teammates that would benefit heavily from that movement speed off the ultimates. That's 5 less minutes they have now to play, and 5 more minutes for this Kog'Maw to scale up. Will be an immediate move over onto Herald as well for Blaze. So try and pick this one up and then get a tower in their own name and try and shore up some of this gold lead that Team Ambition has created for themselves just off the back of farm advantages and tower plate advantages.
Yeah, there's 2 turrets incredibly low here, both in the top and the mid lanes, that they would like to be able to get for themselves for Blaze. But looking to defend the top one here as he moves forward onto Prankaroo, going to transform, going to get the Gnar into the wall. Pseudo's here as well. They will look to move forward onto this Gwen, and they pick up the kill there. Mabud gets a kill in trade for the top lane outer turret. Certainly be happy he was able to get that.
Yeah, making it just in time, and Narbar going to come online there also in just in time. Critically not using Gnar in that last fight. He was just kind of sitting towards the top side of the Dragon, not really able to navigate into the fight just through the zoning tools from Team Ambition Blaze. But as a result, he's able to turn around into a solo kill. It's a good trade, as it would have just otherwise been a free tower given on over.
Yeah, and they're even going to be able to trade turrets here. There's nobody getting up to respond to this from the side of Blaze, so they will be able to get the top outer for themselves as well. It's an even trade, 1-for-1 top outer turrets, plus the kill going to Mabud. It's Team Ambition. They get to keep in the gold lead a little bit over 2K now. It's continuing to grow over the course of the game, even though it might be a little bit slower and it doesn't quite show in the fights.
One big thing here I want to point out, though, is this 4-0 Kog'Maw. Already on the Shield Bow plus Rage Blade. Absolutely insane combo here. Early on, pre-20 minutes, heading to item spike. Super, super powerful. You saw in the earlier skirmish that ended up going on for a minute around that dragon, just how powerful Kog'Maw can be in an extended team fight. Team Ambition, if they want to be successful in a 5v5, has to close it out quickly with some CC combos.
For sure, that means it's going to be the responsibility of the sources of CC here, Sarcasm and Pseudo, to be diving onto this Kog'Maw to find their way to deal with all of the gold he's amassed for himself. He's not putting that into defensive stats. He's putting that into damage, and it means that they can one-shot him if they can manage to get onto him. They just have to be able to complete that step. They have to utilize the stealth of the Wukong, the ranged engage that Leona presents for you, and they have to utilize their vision to be able to find those angles.
Absolutely. It's the simplification of League of Legends team fighting. If your DPS and your own backline is less than that of the enemy teams, then you have to look for the dive. You have to pick off one of those DPS carries on the enemy team to make sure you can be successful in team fights. There are some exceptions, right? You hit a crazy AoE ability, you manage to kill their front line insanely quickly. That's always an option. But generally speaking, especially when you're playing into something like Kog'Maw, you feel like you have to get backline access. You have to find some sort of flank. Sarcasm and Pseudo, like you mentioned, are the two people that have to make that happen.
Absolutely here. And Strumpist, on the Cassiopeia, going to feel a little bit rough in the Kog'Maw matchup, particularly, it feels like. Just going to get outranged and out DPS'd by that character, especially because of the gold difference here. Not going to be too many targets that they can really disable using that miasma either. Maybe going to do some work up against that Gwen, but Team Ambition Blaze, they haven't really drafted a super mobile team comp, and while the Cassiopeia did its job really effectively against the Ryze, preventing that roaming from coming through in the early game, doesn't feel like it's going to have quite as much value as we scale up into the mid and late games.
Absolutely. I am also looking now towards this next dragon fight. They will have another chance to try and play for Soul Point. And I think this is a good opportunity if they can establish vision control for the Wukong to find the flank that they need. Sarcasm has to be this guy hitting a nice backline ultimate to make sure they can get the initial knockup onto the Kog'Maw and then follow it up with their CC. Leona's CC is too short range and too unreliable through the Solar Flare, which is their only long range option, to lock down Kog'Maw through Cleanse. But if you get the knockup initially and then you can follow up with other crowd control and damage, it makes it a whole lot easier.
Trades coming back and forth in the mid lane. Mabud getting ready to go Mega. Might want to look for an opportunity onto Deity here. Chunks him to about half HP, but doesn't have any other further options to move forward. Sarcasm was a little bit too far away. You could see Team Ambition, the main team, looking to abuse, though, the magic damage heavy team comp from Blaze. Already going to be that Spectre's Cowl coming through for Strumpist, of all people.
Certainly a little bit rare there. I believe maybe opting towards the, I'm blanking on the item name, but the one that allows you to cut that magic resistance of nearby targets.
Abyssal Mask.
Abyssal Mask, thank you. But this will be a Herald charging onto the emitter tower. Certainly hurts, but no tower will be picked up just yet. That opens up Strumpus this ability to potentially just sneak away the dragon on his own. Does also have Sarcasm for support on that side of the map. And maybe a cheeky play coming out from Blaze, but I don't think anyone on Ambition really has any reason to walk into this river. They're just now throwing down the blue trinket on the Baron as well, and there will be, now just spotted out, we're going to clear out that last ward, maybe even look to try and bait this longer, but they should look to get the reset as quickly as possible.
Trying to push up through mid lane, but it is going to get responded to in time by Les and by Slapper. Instead, just going to keep the brawl going for Baron Vision. Yeah, this is the kind of game that really gets you cheering for those ward kills. It is where a lot of the gameplay is taking place. Strumpus, though, he's on the split push. He was doing this all game yesterday, especially game number 2, and really became quite the menace as a result of it. Ari, a little bit more mobile than the Cassiopeia, though. It feels like he's going to have to give up on those dreams sooner rather than later.
I mean, do also have now the Soul Point, but it'll be Baron on the map, and the primary focus for, I think, both these teams looking forward for the next 5 minutes. You already have Team Ambition Blaze with, I'd say, superior vision control on that side of the map. Most of the pinks and control wards for Team Ambition are on the bottom side. As you can see, there's one in the river there, one more towards bot side, probably to help Strumpus actually go for the split push here. But they need to reorient this vision to make sure they can, one, contest this Baron if it ends up getting, if the trigger gets pulled here by Team Ambition Blaze, but also just to make sure that they can be safe on this side of the map, because they should be trying to push up these waves on top and mid to prevent Team Ambition Blaze from just rushing down the Baron with a Kog'Maw.
Yeah, big MR item spikes coming through for the main team, by the way, here. Wits End completed from a Bud. Going to be Maw completed for Sarcasm. They're inching towards probably that Abyssal Mask, like you were saying, Sulpan. The Kindle Gem certainly makes it seem like that's the direction that Strumpus wants to go. Maybe once that one's completed, that's really going to be the time where they want to try to force a play here. Got to be a little bit concerned about the scaling Kog'Maw, but and once you have all that magic resist completed, feels like it should be pretty tough for them to work their way through this team, especially early game Kog'Maw, when you don't start getting some of the supplemental crit damage that you'll just get as a result of the items you build. Magic resist going to cut that damage by a lot, and that's not even to mention what it's going to do to Gwen and Ryze.
I really gotta shout out Team Ambition Blaze's insanely good ward placement this game. Ignore what Sarcasm's hitting right now, but look towards the Baron. They got one just outside the pit to check, and that one isn't really spottable by the sweeper, and no team member wants to burn Sweeper just to check that one position. So, oh wait, this one, oh, they managed to put the plant. Okay, so they are going to be able to spot that vision. They'll reduce some of the control that Team Ambition Blaze has over this pit, but Bud's in a little bit of trouble down here.
Rankaroo looking for the one-on-one, hitting a lot of the ultimates, but not going to quite be able to finish off on a Bud. Going to force the flash out of that Gnar, though. That's going to be a crucial engage tool that Team Ambition main team want to be able to use in these fights to get these big Gnar plays. Not going to be available now for 5 minutes, and Prankaroo going to be able to cash out onto the turret as well. They do try to start the Baron. They are spotted by a control ward, realize that that's what's going down, and Sarcasm, already chunked low by that purple worm, going to have to move away.
Easily will heal up off these off the fruit here in the river. Prankaroo is sitting on this teleport and could just go straight back down to this bottom lane. You do see already Prankaroo winning hard in the 1v1. Wouldn't be surprised to see him just try and continue that, keep drawing down Mabud, and prevent Team Ambition from having one of their critical engage tools in all these fights.
Big props to Team Ambition Blaze throughout this game so far, going toe-to-toe with the main roster. This is the one that everybody was really excited about. This one seeded 17 seeds higher. They are doing a great job of taking the fight to him so far this game. Now going to maybe look to start on up this Baron, clearing out the control ward, and now pretty much no vision available for the main team. They're going to be forced to face check towards the Baron, or maybe it's going to be a collapse towards Strampist instead. There's the Realm Warp from the Rise. Ooh. They bait out that ultimate from Cassiopeia. So much well played there from the side of Team Ambition Blaze. They lock down out of Strampus, they take him out, and now with that member down, it's going to be an easy Baron start for Blaze. No opportunity to get anything done.
Super powerful there. Getting the Petrifying Gaze out of the Cassiopeia, like you mentioned, prevents any kind of outplay potential or the turnaround. They do have 3 here towards this Baron pit. Zeri very strong at this. It's an engage.
Yeah, Pseudo trying to get this started. They don't want to give over the Baron for free. Mabud teleporting in. He's already in Mega form. The Baron already going to go on down. They are going to throw out that Solar Flare. They get the stun onto Slapper, but it's just not the opportunity they were hoping for. Instead, they're going to try to take a mid lane inner turret as a consolation prize. They will secure it, but this is going to be a big gold influx towards TA Blaze, and we'll see what they're able to do with the buff afterwards. This is Soul Point coming up in 20 seconds, though. Strampist has teleport. Doesn't even probably need it. This could be a big soul fight breaking out very soon.
I think this was a little bit bad from Pseudo, actually. He threw out the Solar Flare, looking to maybe just try and catch out one of the members of Blaze as they try and walk away from the Baron, but it will mean that they won't have Solar Flare for this Soul on the Dragon. Sarkham's the only one down on the side of the map. They may just be trying to concede this one, or at least pull members of Team Ambition Blaze away from this potential fight at this Dragon.
You can see they want to contest mid-wave, but they just can't up against the Baron buff, but 3 members towards the top side means they should get themselves another inner turret. And in response to this Baron, Team Ambition main team has gotten 2 inner turrets. That's a lot of additional gold for themselves, but it is going to be another Dragon going over to Blaze, the soul denied for the second time.
This map just so open now. There isn't a single outer turret available for Team Ambition Blaze, but they have the Baron buff. They denied this Dragon Soul for another 5 minutes, and Kog'Maw's only getting stronger. Already got the Runaan's online. We did also see that Strampus actually opted for a Spirit Visage this game, so looking for that healing option, trying to stay a little bit more tanky in these fights. We did mention that they do have the triple AP target, so it's not a terrible build here, but certainly dealing less damage to the frontline targets than you may like here on the Cassiopeia.
Yeah, going to amplify that healing that comes through from the Twin Fang on poison targets, so will help Strampus try to sustain through some of these plays, but I don't know that's quite going to do enough up against the burst potential of these champions like the Ryze, like the Gwen. Now, they do sustained damage, but they also have a lot up front here that is going to need to be mitigated by that magic resist from Strampus. Now looking to push out of the mid-inner turret, getting chunked very low by these Baron minions, but there's going to be the Solar Flare off cooldown, followed up with by the Cyclone, and Sarcasm going to pick up the first kill of the fight on to Slapper there. Not going to be able to get too much else. Bud went for that Gnar, was only able to get the kill onto the jungler, and meanwhile Prankaroo has taken an inhibitor, but now getting collapsed on by the remainder of the squad. The Miasma not quite going to stop Skip and Slash, and that means Prankaroo going to be able to head for the hills with that Ghost.
Easily answering back here, Team Ambition Blaze has managed to take the top inhibitor as well as a mid lane inner tower, quickly shoring up the gold lead once again, just barely trailing Team Ambition here, but again, I still think that Team Ambition Blaze has a better scaling here. You're sitting on a Kog'Maw who's just getting so powerful. You saw that even in that last fight, despite getting a pick, they burned spinning engage tools just to pick off Slapper. It meant that they couldn't continue to pursue onto the Kog'Maw and really chase down that hyper carry in the back line. The damage was just continuously coming through from NL. He's doing a great job positioning himself in these fights to make sure he can stay alive and just do the damage that is necessary for the Kog'Maw.
Plus has been playing these out really, really well, and we're now, 10 minutes at least away pretty much from being able to get something like the Elder Drake for the main team. They need to be able to get Soul in 3 minutes, but even then, it's Cloud Soul. It's going to be good with Cyclone. It's going to be good with some of these other engage tools, especially somebody like Zeri who wants to be moving fast, but not really going to secure you the game immediately there. You want to be able to get something like that Elder Dragon, but that's so far away that it's just going to give so much more scaling time to this Kog'Maw.
Kog'Maw's even running the double cleanse here. I didn't notice this earlier, but it's QSS plus cleanse. So if you manage to land the Gnar, if you manage to land the Leona Solar Flare, something is going to get burned by this Kog'Maw to allow him to escape that. So it's a little bit hard for them to lock down this target. Do you see the recalling target in the bush here for on our vision, but that's in the fog of war. They're not going to spot out Prankaroo as he manages to slip by the attempted catch here in the top lane, and it will be a responsive bottom lane. 3 members strong, quickly taking down this last outer turret.
Yeah, Mabud, the only one arriving in time, not going to be able to stop the squad from taking down this turret, and now taking a little bit of extra damage from those living artillery shots from the Kog'Maw, the Beemaw, rather, on this skin, and now potentially going to be a little bit of a flank opportunity for Sarcasm. He's trying to clear out the vision. He's trying to find a way on to that little guy. That's the one ability that you can't negate with either the Cleanse or the QSS is going to be that Wukong Cyclone. Those knockups going to land regardless, and that's really got to be what Team Ambition's game plan is to deal with the little guy.
The one option they do have here as well is Baron's now out. Mega Gnar's bar is sitting in a pretty good spot here, I'd say, to allow them to look for this engage. Oh, actually popping the Gnar in mid lane there, so that's no longer an option, and Team Ambition Blaze could just look to take this tower quickly with one engage tool being down.
Miasma, though, landing on a slapper. He can't flash out. He's got nowhere to go, and Psycho going to be able to finish off that kill. Now look at Sarcasm. He's on the side. He's looking for an angle here on to Les. Going to dive forward. Decides to just go for Deities. He gets locked down by Rock on High. They're going to lock down Rock on High next and foremost. Now moving forward on to NL. NL going to get shut down by Strumpus. Strumpus going to turn that into another kill on a Rock on High. That one goes over to Psycho. 4-for-0 team fight for Team Ambition mid lane.
I think they thought they were safe. They had Salinar in the top lane. Mabud was not even participating in that fight, but they managed to win the 4-versus-4 cleanly. Here's the engage from the squad. It was maybe just stepping a little bit too far forward here for Slapper underneath the turret. Walking up here, you saw Pseudo hiding on the side as well, and the engage tools were utilized so well, layering CC onto the trundle and preventing him from walking out. I think you also mentioned the miasma we'll see in a second here from Strumpus. No more flash available. Pull out all the stops, take out one pick quickly, and then just look to continue on the fight. Deity tried to find the disengage option here, but there was also Sarcasm just threatening here with Cyclone on the side. Did end up getting stunned up and snared up by the Rise, but in the end, they just have so many tools in the kit for Ambition to keep forcing the engage, especially when they're in an uneven fight. That doesn't necessarily matter. They quickly cleaned up these members, managed to get a lot of critical shutdowns on their team, and now have a sizable lead, I'd say, here in gold that should allow them to continue to force fights.
Yeah, Sarcasm getting a little bit cut off here by Slapper and Deity, and be slowed down as he tries to retreat, but Psycho and Strumpus are there for the backup. Got to rain the damage down over the wall. There's going to be a big miasma landed onto Deity. It's going to be followed up with by the Solar Flare, and Deity is already out of the fight before it even gets started. Strumpist getting that kill as well, and now it's time to move on to the Baron. They do this so incredibly quickly with their team composition. That Cassiopeia helps them melt the worm incredibly fast, but instead, Team Ambition Blaze, they're going for the base. They're going to pick on up that mid lane turret. They're going to pick up the mid lane inhibitor as well. It's going to be that traded for the Baron.
Gordo, I got a feeling we're going to run into another heart attack game here. That's 2 inhibitors taken. Percentages, as we mentioned yesterday, are insane if you manage to get triple inhibitor. It's less than a 1% comeback, at least in solo queue. And in coordinated play, I believe it's even harder. And certainly this time, Team Ambition doesn't have the critical jinx, which is so powerful at stalling out in situations like this. It is only 2 inhibitors so far, but Team Ambition Play is doing a great job at finding small advantages here and there to continue to stay alive in this game. Team Ambition, though, now with Baron up the mid lane, is trying to look to crack an inhibitor turret of their own.
It's definitely got to be the goal here. Want to try to equalize at least one of these super minion lanes. Looks like the top lane is going to be the call. They've got Strumpist over here. Sarcasm waiting around in the wings. Potentially go for that engage once again. Solar Flare off cooldown. They have all the engage tools they could potentially want. Deity going to get slowed down at a supercharged laser. Mabud in mega form looking for a potential engage option. If that wears off, it's going to be a point of power for Team Ambition Blaze to maybe try to make something happen. Strumpus getting a little bit chunked out. They've got the turret down to below half HP. Psycho has to be very careful, though. Doesn't want to get locked down by something like that Braum, by something like that Rise. Would really spell the end for the Zeri. There's going to be the Solar Flare used defensively to protect Strumpus, and now with the Miasma layer down, they're getting so much damage back, but it's all being focused onto the support. It's all being focused on a Deity. The decoy for Sarcasm going to get finished on off, and they dive forward onto Strumpus. They've been able to take out that Cassiopeia, and now have a point of power to keep forcing through out of this fight. Pseudo going to be the next target. target. He gets hit by the concussive blows. He gets taken down by the Cogmaw. Psycho using that movement speed, escaping from the play. Bud gonna have to do the same as he wasn't able to be Mega to join the team for the fight. You can see that ultimate still up, still available, not able to be used. And it means that Team Ambition main team, they're gonna have their engage thwarted, and they're going to be set on the back foot once again.
Blaze is doing such a good job at monitoring Mabed's bar here, but we might have another fight. I know
Psycho over the wall, jumping on to Les. They're trying to finish him on off. Psycho getting taken out incredibly low. Mabud trying to finish off on the Cogmaw, but he's just too strong. He's got too much from the shield bow. They will be able to turn it around on Psycho. They take out Mabud as well for the big shutdown. That's going to be the complete ace for Team Ambition Blaze, and they are running it down mid. They are looking to close out this game against their sister team and to get a huge upset here up against the main team.
Strumpus and Pseudo in a 2 versus 5. Can they pull this one off? I don't think so. Wave hasn't managed to make it into the base just yet, so there's still a little bit of time they can try and stall out here. They can't let this super crash into the tower. They're just not going to have the ability to do it.
There's going to be a big Petrifying Gaze. It does manage to land onto Les, but he just immediately goes for the cleanse. Now they're going to be stunning up onto Strumpus. He goes into the stasis to try to stay alive, but with him in the stasis, there's nothing they can do about the Nexus turrets. That's going to be the game. Going over to Team Ambition Blaze. They advance to 2-1. Main team falls to 1-2.
Man, what a game it was. Not quite as crazy, not quite the back and forth we may have seen yesterday, but still completely crazy transition here into the mid game. There was just back and forth fights. We saw Team Ambition manage to get a nice clean team fight in the bot lane, quickly followed up by maybe just overextending a little bit too far with Strumpus there, getting caught by the Glacial Fissure. But again, both teams playing this game out phenomenally close. Barons going 1 to each team here. Dragons at 3-3. We ended up not seeing the Elder Dragon this time around, but what a close game from both squads from Ambition.
Yeah, absolutely. Super close throughout at least the start of Team Ambition Blaze at the end. They played out the fights better. They had access to that Cogmaw as such a great scaling tool, and the rookie ADC over for the side of Blaze, Les, doing so much more. Now, there's definitely a less is more joke to be made there, but doing so much there, not able to match it from the side of Team Ambition, and that means they're going to fall down to 1-2. No more room for error for the main team, but TA Blaze now coming in from such a lower seed are now just 1 win away from getting themselves a ticket into that main event.
Feels good for at least one of the Team Ambition rosters, as the other will have to fight tooth and nail to make sure they make it into that qualifying 3-2 score. It's going to be a closely fought series, but we'll be following all the action here on this main channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Same deal as yesterday. All of the round 3 games need to be completed before we can get seeded for round 4. So we're going to throw it to a little bit of a break here. Feel free to hop around, check out some of the other games that might be going on, and we will update you guys with the round 4 matchup and be back with the draft as soon as we're able. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's stream for Team Ambition main squad here in the Unified PGCQ Open Qualifier. We are here with Team Ambition Civil War Round 2. Both Team Ambition and Team Ambition Black sitting at 1 and 2 here. One team will keep their dream alive here for qualification. One team will be eliminated following this game. It's a tragic story, Sulpan, but at the very minimum, it does mean that we will have at least one team to look forward to qualifying, or at least two teams looking forward to qualifying, as TA Blaze is now sitting at 2 and 1.
Yeah, bittersweet. Team Ambition certainly running the gauntlet here of the Civil Wars. Day one, they even had one among university pals. Now we're here, like playing back-to-back Ambition rosters as the bands do end up coming through. And we see the first presence actually of Talia, I think in this draft phase for Team Ambition, banning it out against Team Ambition Black here. Although one thing we were noting in Champion Select is that TA Black has Brown Man Darius on the team, the best Darius one trick supposedly on the ladder. So we'll see if that gets locked in here against Mabud.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a past life. I know he's let the ranks slip a little bit lately, but happy to see that he is coming back on out here, playing some competitive once again. And the Darius is left up. I don't know if he'd be willing to pick it here. I would think he would, but we'll find out. We'll see how the draft transpires from here on out. But once again, it is going to be the first pick Wukong for Sarcasm. I like this. I think Sarcasm had his best game of the three by far last game on that Wukong. Didn't end up coming through with the win, but happy to see it picked up once again.
And again, still that flexibility in that pick too. Could end up going over into the top lane. So there you have some nice ability in the draft here to switch it up a little bit. Graves will be the answer on the other side in the jungle. Again, very strong. We saw this utilized really well on actually Team Ambition in one of their wins yesterday, where they just had complete vision control over the map, where Sarcasm was just running around, clearing out wards here and there, making sure that the map was completely dark for the other team.
Yeah, that is going to be the Graves and the Nautilus coming on through for TA Black. So gonna keep a lot hidden with that one. Likely going to be for Castle in the jungle. Likely going to be the Nautilus for Turk in the bottom lane. Turk, a friend of the broadcast, has gotten to join us on stream here a couple of times as color commentary. So fun to see him hitting the rift as well. Quick shout out to Turk there.
Here it is. I complained about it a little bit last game. Maybe they'll not actually end up blocking it in, but Leona will be the call. So Team Ambition actually drafting a very similar style and composition this time. I think they liked the look they had in the early game at the very least. It'll be LeBlanc, so much more dive and early game presence coming out here from Strumpus in the mid lane.
Absolutely here. I'm looking through the TA Black games. Okay, so VMD has been playing other things than Darius every game so far. So maybe we have to temper those expectations a little bit. He did play some good stuff, though. But had a good Jax game in their win yesterday. So definitely going to be looking forward to that one. Strumpus going to take the blind. LeBlanc, though, going to be countered by Mark Boots' Vex, but really excited to see Strumpus on a strong snowballing pick. He's been able to win or go even in his lane pretty much every game so far. He's really been the focal point that Team Ambition has had to run through basically every game so far. So I like to see him get all of this proactivity, all of this autonomy with this LeBlanc pick.
Yeah, you saw him split push so much yesterday on the Ahri, and LeBlanc is another of those champions that can do just that. They really want to sit in that side lane. They have so much escapability and outplay potential in their kit. They can just burst down one person and then move to rotate to a team fight. So I like that they're giving Strumpus some more proactive options here for Team Ambition. Also see if they can utilize those tools in this next phase. But for TA Black, they're saving their AD pick and their top lane pick. And I can't imagine you give counter pick to ADC in this scenario. So we could see it. I mean, your back's against the wall. Do you give your one trick their one trick? The potential is there, but it has to be a good matchup for it to come out.
Absolutely does here. That is going to be. I'm going to do a quick peek right now, actually. I am going to find out what he's been playing in solo queue. That is that's the real tell right there. But definitely going to still be top lane bans focused over towards Mabud. Those would be champions that I would expect to do fine up against the Darius. So gotta keep that in the back of your head when facing off against this TA Black squad for sure.
It's just a huge point. Whenever you have, your back is against the wall in the scenario, you can't lose another game. You have those comfort picks that a lot of players kind of want to default back onto. They're saying, all right, you give me this champion, I will carry this game. I can do so well on this. Did see a very successful Volibear game, though, as well from BMD in that last match for TA Black. A little bit of an unfortunate game ending there. But on the other side, Team Ambition just going to lock in the Ornn, a very straightforward composition this time, giving themselves a absolute go button with this Ornn ultimate.
Yeah, that is going to be the bind pick in the top lane here for Mabud. What will the response be from BMD in the top lane? Gonna wait and see here, but it is gonna be the Xayah Nautilus bot lane facing off against the Tristana Leona. That's gonna be a powerful early duo coming through here for Team Ambition. Want to see this experienced duo together come through,
Oh,
and there's the Darius baby Sulfan. We got to see it here. It is gonna be facing off against Mabud's Ornn, and now the whole game has to flip towards top side. Now you really have to think, will Mabud be able to successfully neutralize BMD? He can do so much in lane as well as in the team fights on this champion. He has got so many games put in, and with their backs against the wall, TA Black will lock it in.
yeah, at least in the laning phase, Darius should have this just utmost advantage against the Ornn. But as the game goes on, obviously, Ornn has just the better team fighting option. On the flip side, though, Tristana LeBlanc are two champions that want to dive into you, and Darius is okay with that. Darius's biggest problem is getting kited. So when every enemy on the other team is coming at you, you're kind of okay with that. You pull out the Gourd Drinker, you pull out the Decimating Slash, and you'll be able to heal back to full in no time.
Yeah, for sure here. That's going to be a fun one to check on out. Gonna be all about the top lane for certain here, but want to be keeping an eye on what the mid lane can get done here for Team Ambition. Mark Boots has got a nice counter pick there in the form of this Vex. Can really do a lot to interrupt what LeBlanc is going for when they have the Doom up to be able to interrupt that incoming dash. But if Strampus can get the push, if Strampus can get set ahead by Mabud or by Sarcasm rather, would do so much for him to be able to be unlocked around the map, for him to go swing something like that top lane, for him to swing maybe a bot lane matchup, even to invade into the jungle along with Sarcasm. That Graves gonna have a little bit of a tougher time surviving some of that burst damage. He gets passive armor from the True Grit, but not going to have that magic resistance, so could definitely be vulnerable to being bursted out by a roaming assassin like LeBlanc.
Absolutely. It's something you have to be always cognizant of whenever there's such a strong, powerful mid lane presence like that on the map. As well, in the bottom lane here, Stain locking in the Xayah had a really strong performance on Ezreal in the last game, but and Xayah's fallen off a lot in favor in terms of priority in competitive play. But Xayah this game has a lot of things going for her. Feathers are so good against team comps that want to dive you. Xayah's ability to pull back, grab that giant chunk of damage, as well as a snare, is incredibly powerful. So the fact that they're locking in the Xayah, who isn't necessarily a great pick right now in the meta, but still has that ability to match up well into the team composition that Team Ambition has built. I like that they're not considering her a weak pick just because she's considered a little bit weaker, but really looking at the core identity of the champion and making sure that this is something that can work into the composition that Team Ambition has picked up.
Yeah, for sure here. And then, a little bit of bot lane aggression. We saw Psycho and Pseudo take an early advantage last game while they were playing it was the Zeri Leona up against that Kog'Maw Braum. Maybe we'll have a similar opportunity here up against the Xayah Nautilus. It's a little hard to get the push up against that Naut early on. If he starts using the passive on the minions, gets that little bit extra bonus damage. But Tristana passively pushes the wave all the time and has so much early burst damage once she gets level 2 or even level 3 to be able to detonate that explosive charge. That's really going to be a point that they can use in their favor. Sarcasm really does kind of have his pick of the litter here for where he wants to go. Could even look up towards that top lane where you got to believe that BMD is going to be pushing into some degree up against the Ornn, looking to be aggressive. The level one, also something you even have to consider up in that top lane. You can be Darius, you can go Ghost alongside your Flash, start W, wait in that top lane brush, and look for the solo first blood. It's an option that's available, and that has to be respected by Mabud this game.
Yeah, you've kind of seen throughout most of the games today and yesterday that Sarcasm wants to take a leashless start to afford advantages to his bot and mid lane or bot and top lane. So Mabud in this game really doesn't gain much from being in lane first, other than making sure you don't get cheesed by the Darius and being able to take precedence in the bush and making sure he doesn't walk and get some kind of crazy push on you level 1. Um, he might still go for it, but I think this might be the one game where it's actually worth leashing from a mud and trying to enable your mid and bot lane and just being happy to play weak side.
Yeah, absolutely. Would definitely make a lot of sense there. Getting to go into the lane early on your own, not have to worry about the leash could really almost turn against you in this matchup. You're not
Mhm.
going to get anything done as this Ornn facing off against the Darius in the top lane. you're probably not going to be able to make too much happen elsewhere either, by virtue of being opened up, having that free time. So I think this does make a lot of sense as being a blue side start for Sarcasm, where maybe he'll get a little bit of assistance from a Bud starting off.
And I think the other thing that's going very well for Team Ambition Black is Turk being on the Nautilus uh, into the Leona matchup is really powerful, as well as Mark Boots being on the Vex. There's so many dashes that it can generate that ability to get the fear and look for disengage options, but Nautilus into Leona is such an interesting matchup because it really, I think, comes down to if you've practiced the hook into Dennis Blade combo on your ping. It's really hard to pull off if like you're switching locations at all, but if you're comfortable, you should be able to consistently knock Leona out of that whenever she's engaging into you, proc your aftershock, and prevent a lot of burst from coming down on you while you're in that CC chain.
Definitely something to be on the lookout for. It's like we're getting into our spectator delay here, so we are going to throw it to a break once again while we get loaded onto the Rift for our game number 4 of the Open Qualifier. Once again, want to shout on out. There is going to be a RP giveaway here. 2 $10 RP cards being given away by Team Ambition here to celebrate 600 followers here on Twitch. Come through into the Team Ambition Discord. Check on out Protz's post in the announcements tab to get yourself entered to win there. And follow Team Ambition on all those socials as always. Looking forward to seeing you there. We're going to once again take that break, get into game, and we'll be right back. Check out every bit of the action. Welcome back, everybody, to the Team Ambition stream here, the Unified PGCQ Open Qualifiers, where we are here with Team Ambition Civil War Round 2. TA main team taking on TA Black here. Going to be one of these teams keeping the hope alive for a 3-2 finish. One of these teams dropping down to 1-3 and will sadly be eliminated from contention for top 16. A whole bunch on the line here for this game number 4.
And both these teams, I'd say, picking up a lot of their comfort champions as well. You have Sarcasm on the Wukong, played that last game to great effect. Kind of mentioned it was his best showing on the jungle so far in this open qualifier. Strompist here on the mid, on this new face here for us, LeBlanc in mid, but this team identity overall is still the same. They have a lot of team fighting ability. They want to try and stack and layer CC as much as possible for Team Ambition, whereas Team Ambition Black has a little bit more of a skirmish heavy kite back style composition. And of course, Darius on the top lane here for BMD. Can be super interesting to watch how he matches up into Mabud.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, going to have to keep an eye on what this guy is going to be able to get done in the top lane. He has gone for the Ghost here, so he's going to be taking that more aggressive summoner spell option. Does also get the kill on that ward, so we'll have a tiny little XP advantage over Mabud.
Might end up losing out on that because he is leashing for this blue buff, but that was a really nice late invade by Team Division Black. No chance to respond to that on the opposite side. Sarcasm, usually very intelligent about jungle pathing, might end up pulling out something kind of interesting here to make sure he can still maintain a lead over the Graves.
Yeah, Mabud might have the slightest of ideas that this is going down because he sees that BMD is approaching top lane from a bit of a weird angle. It looks like he's leaving the blue side jungle rather than coming from his own tri-brush. So they might have an idea this is going down, and it looks like they will. Sarcasm moving on over, going to go for the vertical jungling, and is going to be able to equalize.
Yeah, one big problem with the invade like this is that it really only gives you a massive advantage if the other jungler doesn't recognize it, and they did have the good ward to spot out the early invade. But also, Graves does clear significantly faster than the Wukong, so Sarcasm should, in theory, fall a little bit behind here, as Castle did have that first move into his jungle.
Yeah, the other thing it does is it guarantees that Sarcasm is not going to be up towards the top side. So it means that Mabud and BMD are going to be left alone with the only jungler potentially interfering being Castle. And you can see BMD taking advantage of that fact right away here. Going to try to zone Mabud off of this second wave as he ticks over to level 3, pulls him back in with the Apprehend, chunks him down below half HP, and that's some Darius mastery right there, baby. They have set up for this lane domination from BMD, and it's so far taken place perfectly.
Yeah, Mabud doesn't actually have a combat rune here on him. Did end up taking that the unsealed spellbook to swap out teleport and maybe special combat summoners later on, but we'll have the teleport to get back to lane if he does get too low, but he just has to survive here for now. Make sure he can take as many minions as possible and not lose it on too much EXP against a lane dominant Darius.
Yeah, for sure here. Already down about 10 CS, is going to equalize that as best he can as the wave crashes in. BMD is going to disappear into the fog during that time as Psycho going aggressively in the bottom lane, looking to detonate that explosive shot onto Stain. Going to chunk both targets out a tiny bit here. A little bit of utilization of the laning power that Tristana brings to the table.
Yeah, and there you saw it. Looks like Turk does have the combo down, so was able to hit the hook on the Leona, proc Aftershock, and then not take too much damage as a result off that trade. Well played by Turk there to make sure he can keep himself nice and healthy, but we might have a dive here in bot lane.
Yeah, they're looking to set this up. Pseudo going to take the aggro, but he does not have the Aftershock. Not going to go down for first blood, though. That'll go into the hands of Sarcasm, and Turk going to pick up the return kill. So going all in the favor of Team Ambition main team there. The gold going to be lesser and going to go towards the support.
And also critically denying the AD carry some levels. Oh, that's a nice hook.
Yeah, BMD snags Mabud out of the Searing Charge there. Procs the passive, takes 2 turret shots for his troubles, but really getting that threat range down onto Mabud there, and with the ability to use that Decimate to keep getting a little bit of extra health, going to be very happy with his circumstances right now.
That's the big point about the Darius in the Ornn matchup. Ornn has the sustain if he's able to build those items. He can build himself more health in the lane, right? But Darius always has access. If Darius is in range of you, he's healing. So it's a little bit risky for Mabud to continue to stay in this lane. It is going to be the recall finally from BMD Threadripper, but as he crashes that huge wave, shouldn't end up missing out on too much here in the top lane. Mabud will also channel recall and probably have to just walk back to lane alongside the Darius.
Yeah, the only way really around it for Mabud, and he won't have access to this until he has more armor, is to try to do something like Searing Charge into him to get in and get hit by the hilt of the axe rather than the blade. That'll prevent the healing from coming on through and reduce the damage, but, you know, it also does put you melee range with the Darius, so there's a win and a loss there.
Man, I am feeling for staying there on that Gromp attempted take. Did have wards in the jungle. They spot out the AD carry, trying to find some farm for themselves. Psycho just was holding the wave so far away that Demon King wasn't comfortable walking up to that, especially with no summoners available. But now they have got multiple members in the area once again. This time, though, Castle's here to respond.
Yeah, and Strumpus starting to put some pressure onto Mark Boots there. You know, you do have the opportunity on the Vex to interrupt LeBlanc dashes with Doom and Gloom,
They want
but
to fight.
you can't have it all the time. I'm going to stop that point there as Turk is going for a little bit of an engage. Pseudo going to land the Zenith Blade. Once again, not as tanky as he doesn't have the Aftershock. That's a big Blade Caller there from Stain, going to pretty much stop Psycho and Sarcasm in their tracks, and they're going to have to back out of there.
Yeah, I had to smite the Gromp there for the HP, so it will go over to Castle, and it's a little bit of time lost in the jungle for Sarcasm. I think this might be the first time I've ever seen Sarcasm down in CS in any jungle matchup, and it's come down to some pretty clever pathing from Castle and BMD there in the top lane to make this happen, but we'll have to see if he can manage to shore up this lead a little bit, as, again, falling behind in jungle by 1 level isn't too bad, but if he manages to hit that 2-level spike, Castle will certainly be feeling fairly happy about that, taking every duel he can all over the map.
Yeah, he does have 2 blue side camps alive that Castle doesn't have, so he has the opportunity to equalize here, but, you know, that would, of course, require moving over to Krugs to really catch on up. If no counter jungling takes place, though, and everybody full clears all the time, Sarcasm should be able to stay even. That's going to be a nice hook, though, coming through from Turk. Psycho gets a little bit chunked out, tries to return the damage onto Stain, but health bar that low, can't risk taking turret shots, so it's just going to be a successful engagement there from TA Black.
I mean, I'll have to assume that Rocket Jump was down there. You can buffer out of the Nautilus hook, kind of like other grabs, but unfortunately just getting caught out that time. Strumpist, a little bit risky here in the mid lane. There is a Graves there, but it's another engage in the bot lane.
Yeah, just using the ultimate there to try to get some extra damage on through. I was trying to say earlier is, you know, the Vex is a good counter to LeBlanc when she has the Doom and the Gloom up to interrupt those dashes from coming in, but your uptime can't be 100%. You have to utilize that passive when you're using spells to clear out the wave, so eventually there will be opportunities for Strumpus to go in and make the trades. He finds one there and chunks him out to about half.
I feel like my bud's almost taking a page out of the book of the Darius that he had to fight in Game 1 yesterday. Switching over to the Ignite here, may be able to catch BMD a little bit off guard with the combat power. There is also a Graves sneaking up through the lane, but a ward cleverly placed in that bush there will spot out this gank.
Yeah, for sure. Bud going to try to play this out as safely as possible. Will be spotting that ward, his Castle, so he knows that he doesn't have a good opportunity to really make a play happen. And Bud doing a good job of staying even against BMD's Darius so far. Here's a gank attempt on a Mark Boots. Is going to land the Zenith Blade going out under the turret. Going to be a big chunk out there from the combo. Mark Boots lands the ultimate, trying to trade back onto Pseudo, but not going to be able to do it. Strumpus picks up that kill, 2-1. Team Ambition main team.
I think even Pseudo was a little bit surprised that the Zenith Blade landed there. Flash just a little bit too late, and Zenith Blade will follow you if it connects pre-flash. So, nice gank there. Nice room from Pseudo to find the play, and aggressive play is coming out early from Team Ambition.
I mean, not what I expected to happen, but it'll take it. So that's going to be an electrocute proc onto Turk. Strumpus has to be careful, though. Wow, nerves of steel there as Turk throws out the hook, presumably trying to predict a juke, and Strumpus just keeps running in a straight line and walks right past it.
They say the straight line is, you should just throw in the mix-ups like that every now and again in your juke. Sometimes if you just don't juke at all like that, Turk tries to predict, throws a little bit wide and to the left, so unfortunately not going to find the hook in this situation, and will not be any return kills happening there in the mid lane.
For certain there, Strumpus knows when to get a little mix-up in there to be able to keep himself safe. Might have had to expend the flash there if he saw that dredge line was on a collision course with him. Also gets the read that it's not going to hit him and that he can just keep walking on out of there. Very nicely played. So he's looking to keep the pressure on a Mark Boots. Pseudo still in the mid lane. Not going to find the Zenith Blade this time around.
This is a fairly late first Dragon to be alive in a Team Ambition game. I'm kind of surprised they didn't end up going for it when they did spot the Graves in top. But might be looking to make the rotation happen now, as LeBlanc just not getting that shove in mid. And bot lane, Tristana, of course, always pushing, always an option.
Yeah, BMD finds Mabud just a little bit too far up, and he's going to pick up the solo kill there. Mabud had no minions, had no business being up that far. He gets apprehended by BMD and taken out for Darius' first kill of the game.
And there it is, Darius showcasing that lane dominance. Bud, not quite in the stage of the game where he can show how powerful his champion is just yet. And will just continue to get bullied up here in the top lane. Solo kill coming out. Certainly not what you want to happen as he switches over back to the teleport, trying to make it back to this lane without losing out on too much farm.
Yeah, we'll try to get the CS. You know, as long as you can teleport back and pick up the wave as it crashes, you don't feel too much punishment for dying solo in today's game. But BMD with the extra gold, definitely going to love that one. As Pseudo is driving in mid for the third time here, lands that ultimate, gets the chunk out on a Mark Boot. Strompus picks up the kill again. 2-0 start for the LeBlanc. That's exactly what you're hoping for.
I think Pseudo might have more ganks right now than actually Sarcasm does. Most of Sarcasm plays have happened in the jungle. And so that's now 3 ganks mid from Pseudo, constantly looking to keep Strompist ahead. And working out well here is Mark Boots has got no summoners, so if they can just land one single CC ability, he's pretty much going down guaranteed.
Yeah, Castle needs to try to bail out his mid laner here at some point, or Turk needs to be following these roams. Something needs to happen because, you know, there's very little Mark Boots could do here. He doesn't have any mobility abilities on his champion, so if he doesn't have the flash and the solar flare is coming down on top of him, he's just gonna get stunned. And if he gets stunned, he's gonna get full comboed by the LeBlanc, passive or no passive, and he's gonna end up losing his life. So plays out exactly as it's written there. And Pseudo, once that ultimate's back up, I would not be surprised to see him pay a 4th visit towards the mid lane.
A flash timer getting a little bit close will make it difficult, narrowing that window that he's going to have that ability to do just that. Pseudo moving back down towards the bottom lane. Might need to support Tristana here against the dive as Psycho walking up to the wave. It could be a little bit dangerous here. Will just be the recall out of Castle, and there is that Rift Herald in the pocket. I imagine it's going to be towards top side.
BMD actually going for the Stride Breaker here, so prioritizing sticking power over the sustain that something like a Gore Drinker would provide. He really wants to just pull you in with the Apprehend, get the big slow, and guarantee that he's going to be able to chase you down the rest of the way. We'll follow that up with a second slow once he lands the W as well.
Yeah, I'm not the Darius expert. I'm trusting BMD's judgment here on the switch to Stride Breaker. I think I still would like to see Gore Drinker just with the amount of champions that'll be in Gore Drinker range. But again, I guess that kind of still applies to the Stride Breaker. You can use it to peel for your team. You can try and keep targets away from your Vex and Xayah on the back line, and then just allow them to continuously kite using the feathers and all the CC that Vex's kit provides.
Yeah, 4 members getting sent towards the top lane for Team Ambition here. Mark Boots coming up as well to respond. They are going to be able to get that Rift Herald crash. They're going to split the gold a little bit, though, so not going to be too crazy for how much ends up going over towards BMD there. Will be a couple of turret plates, though, cashed out on this turret. Incredibly low now. Bud going to face check up against BMD here. Doesn't expect that he was sticking around. Thought he had recalled with the rest of his team. That's going to be the passive proc. He flashes the Apprehend perfectly, though. Mark Boots now going to get hit by that solar flare once again. Still doesn't quite have access to the flash. It comes off cooldown just in time, and Mark Boots is able to escape.
Oh, that hurts so much. So for one in the top lane, happy for Bud being able to survive there, burning the flash in the process, but does manage to escape. Now switching to Ghost to make sure, in case anything funky happens, he has some kind of ability to escape it. But there in the mid lane, we kind of mentioned how the flash cooldown was coming up, and I think if that solar flare had actually hit, that's a dead Mark Boots, but a nice juke on the Vex allows Mark Boots to walk back just far enough to survive this one, and then keep the flash, or not keep the flash, but utilize the flash to finally escape the gank. Ignite also coming down there from the Leona. That's one less ability for her to use to make sure Vex dies guaranteed. But either way, Mark Boots flashless again in the mid lane, and this Leona has not left him alone.
Absolutely not. And, you know, Turk hasn't really been able to respond in turn. It's not like he's been really decimating Psycho by sticking in the 2v1 in the bot lane. Psycho's actually up in CS in this lane. They haven't been able to punish him. They haven't been able to send Nautilus elsewhere too much. He paid a little bit of a visit towards top lane earlier on, which in the long run is working out here. BMD nearly killing Mabud a second time earlier, forcing out the flash, and is going to be able to pick up that first turret gold as well.
Passion on in here on the Darius too. Some plates, first tower gold, and an opened top side will mean that they should be able to play around the second Rift Herald fairly easily. It's just with all the presence they have up here. Like you mentioned, bot lane not exactly going Team Ambition Black's way. Mid lane not exactly either with 2 kills on Strompus. Gonna have to really utilize the power of this LeBlanc versus the Darius in this fight to make sure they can burst on a target and make this fairly uneven before it even starts.
Turk waiting around in this ping brush, has it pink warded, so knows that nobody's going to be able to see him. Does step out and get spotted there for a second. That's going to be the flash engage onto BMD. Coming through here for Pseudo. They want to focus down out of this Darius. He gets chunked out pretty low. He is going to get one shot there by Strompist, and Psycho's damage. Killing spree as they trade 1-for-1, but it is support for top laner. Now Stain getting chased out by Psycho. The Cyclone getting thrown down by Sarcasm. They are going to gain some control over this Dragon Pit, and it is going to be Dragon number 2, presumably going to TA main team.
Team Ambition recognizing the biggest threat in that fight and using everything on it. You could argue a little bit tunneled, but they won the fight. They get the dragon. They get everything they wanted off that, forcing everything onto that Darius. It was a nice choice to make sure they could secure the win. And when all your power's in one target, that's all you need to do.
Absolutely here. They do get themselves second dragon, and it's not going to be Cloud this time around either. It is going to be that Mountain Soul. Would do so much to being able to survive this really burst-heavy team composition that Team Ambition Black have put together. If you're able to get that big Mountain Shield, you know, getting a little ahead of myself here on that one, but it really will do a whole bunch of work to being able to present, especially the resets on the Noxian Guillotine from coming on through.
Absolutely. Ornn also super happy to pick that one up. Just so many resistances on that champion overall. Sarcasm and Bruisers in general are opting for these resistance heavy styles, so Mountain Soul very useful on Team Ambition's comp. On the flip side, like you mentioned, Burst into Mountain Shield, never a fun game to play, so they'll do what they can here to try and prevent this one from going down onto Team Ambition, and they do have this slight gold lead, but again, most of that's in the Darius. They really have to play these team fights very intelligently, make sure Darius can survive, and try and get a Noxian Guillotine kill onto at least one member to utilize it one more time in the fight to really maximize that damage.
I'd see another team fight here for this Rift Herald. Sarcasm is in the area. All 10 players coming on up here. Mabud, though, currently occupied catching that top lane wave, but it is going to be a startup on to the Rift Herald from Sarcasm. Psycho is here on the bottom side as well. Starts getting the damage on through. Strompist waiting around in the bush, looking for a potential engage option. Just fires out all the damage onto Turk. Turk going to get taken incredibly low. Going to be a trade of flashes there from Pseudo and Turk as Sarcasm dives into the back line, not getting the knockups where he needs them, though. Mark Boots finishes off onto Psycho. Now Strompist looking for an opportunity as well, but he's going to get chain CC'd and he's going to get shut down as well. Reset for Mark Boots on the Shadow Surge, not going to land onto anybody, but that's a 2-for-0 team fight for Team Ambition Black. They're going to turn that into a Rift Herald.
Man, I really thought Team Ambition had the right setup here, but an insane pull from the Darius, not words I thought I'd say, onto Tristana over the wall to make sure this team fight happens. We got a replay here as well. You can watch it in real time. They managed to establish vision control in this bush on the red buff, get the pink ward down, and they just never saw Darius actually walking up into this location. I like that no one hits this ward, they're just setting up for it, and BMD just sits right here on this ledge, waiting for someone to walk up. They get some really nice damage onto Turk, they burn Solar Flare for it, but are unable to find another pick, and right there, solo hooking Tristana, forcing flash, and they just drop everything on top of Psycho.
Absolutely.
Honestly,
They're getting so much done in the team fight on this Darius, and then the chain CC still available to lock down Strompist. He is not able to get on in there. He's not able to finish off any of the plays, and that's shutdown gold that ends up going into the pockets of TA Black as well. They've got themselves nearly a 2k gold lead.
Strompist, of course, doing Strompist things here in the bottom lane, getting the wave crashed on in, looking for some turret damage. Will be matched by Mark Boots, and they will send their own bot lane into mid to try and get some of these Tristana bombs off onto the mid lane tower. But there are members waiting in the wings here, so hopefully no aggression comes out from Team Ambition Black, as they will be just playing straight into the hand of the enemy team.
Certainly do still have the dragon advantage. That is still the hope to look for, and the damage that Psycho brings cannot be discounted. Was pretty much neutralized entirely in that last team fight, but that will likely not be the case in future ones if he gets to play it out the way that he wants to. Ludo still lurking around this mid lane, ready to back up his bot laner if the time does come and the situation does call for it. So we are 90 seconds away from Dragon number 3. Certainly expect both of these teams to show up there. They've been contesting pretty much every objective so far this game.
It's been really exciting. We got these two team fight oriented comps again. Really different styles, you'd have to say, but Team Ambition certainly having the more straightforward way to win the fight. Darius being a little bit more of an unorthodox pick that Team Ambition Black is going to have to play around. But both these teams looking towards this soul point and being so powerful here for Team Ambition to take this one and then continue to be able to force fights on this last objective. Had some trouble securing souls in the past. We'll see if they can pull it off in this game.
Yeah, call the potential scaling options as well here for Team Ambition. Mabud going to start bringing out those Ornn upgrades here pretty soon. And once those start taking place, it is going to do a lot to equalize that gold lead. In fact, a lot of it already kind of been equalized with that turret take in the bottom lane. They're only going to be down a little bit less than 1k gold at this point. Looking around for another potential opportunity. Going to be Strampus looking to trade with BMD. It's pretty close to even, though, and Strampus ends up expending his ultimate for that poke damage.
Not a whole lot gained just yet. LeBlanc's gonna be coming off a cooldown, hopefully before this one ends up spawning in, actually. So Mountain Soul still on the table for both these teams as Strampus looks to find some kind of flank. It was over the wall there, I think, actually out of vision and maybe an opportunity, but it will be Team Ambition using this time to just quickly burst down mid instead of actually opting for the soul point.
Yeah, they have the inside track on the mid lane. They can even look for the inner turret here as well, as they know that multiple members have dived on in to try to take that dragon. Now going to be pushed back out as Stain arrives for the rest of the play. That's going to be a landed Shadow Surge, but might put Mark Boots in a little bit too deep. Cyclone going to come on through, but it is going to be the lockdown on a Strampist. He does fall to the chain CC of TA Black once again. This LeBlanc not able to get it done so far this game. Not going to be able to turn that Cyclone onto Mark Boots into anything. Team Ambition lose the fight 1-0. Team Ambition Black, they throw down the Rift Herald, and they are pinging the Baron here, Sulpan. They want to try to break this game open.
I'm a little bit surprised here. I thought I was going to see the 5-man Cyclone as there were so many Team Ambition Black members all grouped up.
No.
But right here, it's going to be the Baron bait.
Yeah, there's going to be the hook coming through on Mabud. He tries to immune the CC with the Bellows Breath, but he's going to get melted down so quickly. He's only got one item done, and it's not going to be enough to protect you against the full 5-man squad of Team Ambition Black. They turn one kill into two, and they're going to try to turn it into a mid-turret as well.
So rather than the Baron, they managed to get the pick, they managed to get the mid turret, and they still have the option to try and go for this, but I imagine with all this gold in their pockets, they're looking for the reset, and they want to hit these item spikes before they try and make this objective take happen.
Certainly do here. BMD continuing to get a lot done there. The chain hooks, really something to definitely be keeping a close eye on. Landing that dredge line into landing apprehend. That's almost a blitzcrank hook there. It's a little build your own rocket grab, as they can chain those together and really pull you way out of position. Didn't really work on Mabud because he immediately immunes the CC with the Bellows Breath, but that's a combination to keep your eyes on if it lands onto somebody like Sarcasm or Pseudo.
Yeah, super, super dangerous here in this game, and really starts starting to feel like Team Ambition needs to play very, very safe to make sure that they don't send any carry into that grip of the double hook. Risky plays coming out from Team Ambition Black, but they're making it work for themselves, and generating this gold lead a little bit on top of stopping the Dragon's Soul has got to feel good for them.
And at this point, 4 games in, this has pretty much been the story of every Team Ambition game. They start off with a good early game, they execute their plans pretty effectively, and even when a wrench gets thrown into the works, they can make something happen. Although, speaking of something, Turk, they chunked out by Strampus, but will be able to escape. But after that, when it gets to the team fights, when it gets to the skirmishes, it all just seems to fall apart. They can't get all on the same page. They end up getting picked. They end up giving over kills, and they end up giving over the gold lead to their opposition, which, for the second time now, is going to be one of their sister teams.
We're looking towards the top lane dive here, though. They do kill the ward in the pit, which might mean that Vex, Mark Boots there in the top lane, can play a little bit safer here and make sure he doesn't get taken out. Strampus taking down another turret by himself, as there is an orange split pushing in the bottom lane. No teleport on Mabud, though. Could be the engage angle here for Team Ambition Black.
Yeah, going to be another turret going down for Team Ambition. TA Black doesn't find themselves the engage angle they might have been looking for. Sarcasm, though, sees BMD and has to immediately book it in the opposite direction. He's 2 levels down on this Wukong. He's 1 item versus 2. He knows that he doesn't really have any opportunity or any business brawling up against that guy.
Yeah, a little bit risky there. I think Wukong into Darius is already dangerous. If you get caught in that extended trade, you will certainly lose. So wisely backing away from the solo laner, who already stacked up here with the Death Dance on top of the Stride Breaker. Super powerful there, as they now send BMD down into the side lane. One thing to watch out for this game will be the double teleport from Team Ambition. Mabud can always switch back on over to that teleport and make sure they have that as an option to try and catch someone out in one of these side lanes. And BMD, obviously, with the Ghost Flash, doesn't have quite the same ability to get around the map as a teleport might.
Yeah. Worn items starting to come through now. So Mabud takes level 13. Rhymeforged Grasp going to be the first one. So that goes into Mabud's inventory. It'll give him that little bit of extra stats on top of the bonus stats that his passive already gives him. Going to make him that little bit of extra tanky. With the Thorn Mail done as well, should be able to resist some of the big physical damage that comes through from Team Ambition Black and be that effective front line that his team needs.
Keep in mind, Orin items now coming online here. This is level 13 Mabud. He's managed to pick up his own Frostfire Gauntlet upgrade, and now we'll start dealing those out to the rest of the team. I'd imagine at this point in the game, he's going to give the first one to Strompus, but then obviously the rest of the team will just get some free stats and help shore up a little bit of the gold difference here against Team Ambition Black.
Definitely will, and once those other ones come through, we'll do a little bit extra to equalize the gold difference. Psycho has that Bloodthirster. How do I forget the oldest item in the game for a second? But he's, you know, you don't see it second that often anymore. You gotta forget it a little bit, but it does give him that big fat shield. We'll do a little bit extra once again up against a bursty team composition that TA Black has drafted for themselves. Psycho says, hey, you know, I can't be 100% sure that I won't get hooked over a weird angle by BMD again, but at the very least I can try to make sure I survive when I do it, as there's going to be a big engage coming through from the side of Pseudo. They burst out Turk right away, but it's going to get returned back onto the Leona. Now over the wall, Mark Boots finds a way onto Strompus, going to trade that 1-for-1, and with Strompus already off the board, they have to back away from the side of TA main team. Team Ambition Black successfully execute another team fight. Great immune by Mabud there on the apprehend. Very well might have kept him alive, or at least kept his health bar competitive, as another dragon, though, goes over to TA Black. They are going to be 2-2 in that department now, getting tankier and tankier as they stack up the Mountain Drakes.
There were a few head-scratcher moments in that fight, but overall, Team Ambition Black coming out ahead. Massive play here from Stain. An insane pullback, did so much damage in that fight, despite the engage looking really good for Team Ambition. They saw Mark Boots teleport into the mid lane, didn't have the option to quickly close the gap into the fight, so they thought they could go for it. Even had Strompus flanking on the side. But here we have a Baron attempt, actually, from Team Ambition, so trying to make the best out of a bad situation. Might be spotted out by Tristana blocking a reward, though.
Yeah, Psycho does get seen heading over here. He does have a little bit of extra damage, as the Wormfall and Sacrifice upgrade has come through for him as well. It's going to be that little bit of extra damage, hopefully push him over the edge, but didn't find a good opportunity to do too much in that last fight. They were able to finish off onto Turk, but Turk, not the target that's going to swing that whole team fight. And when they end up losing Strompus on the backside too, just gives TA Black the opportunity to push them out of the fight and secure another win for themselves.
Mark Boots kind of hiding in the wings here, doesn't want to walk up to this wave. It's just a little bit too risky, especially with the positioning of his own team on the map. Does have the Zonias now built, wasn't able to complete that, although he burned it in that last fight kind of in a funny position. He was just over the wall, completely out of range of everyone, and I think maybe misclicked on Zonias instead of Everfrost, and just popped that instantly. So was kind of stuck out there on the side, didn't have the cooldown here, but wisely playing it safe for a second there in the top lane to make sure nothing crazy could have happened and let him get picked off, and then quickly switch that into a Team Ambition Baron.
Strompus jumps over the wall, throws a combo towards Castle, doesn't land the chains, so isn't going to chunk him out too low. Will be sitting there at about 2/3 HP. Continuing to keep pressure on towards this Baron. Team Ambition would like an opportunity to force a fight around here, to go for some kind of sneak, but thus far, just going to have to play the scaling game and take it nice and easy as they set down their wards.
Is Darius answering spawn away, but there's a massive engage
forward
here.
onto Strompus. He's going to have to ulti away, but Mabud is already channeling the TP. He's going to be up so far here with no paddles. That's going to be Sarcasm getting engaged on. Instead, he throws down the Cyclone. Psycho over the wall, trying to finish off at a castle. Will be able to do it. This could be the big pick that TA were looking for. Turk going to get taken out as well. Strompus teleports back to the fight to rejoin the rest of the team. And it's a 5 versus 3 on the map for Team Ambition main team. They can move towards the Baron.
Just when it was starting to look really bad for Team Ambition, they flipped the game back on its head. That is a huge team fight win to get for them. Gold on the Psycho. Psycho also popping off in that fight with multiple jumps. 2 kills down. Castle flashing forward there to try and finish off Strompus, because they just couldn't find the ultimate as Strompus burned their own flash. And it will be the Baron now taken, quickly flipping this game back into Team Ambition's favor.
Yeah, crazy fight there. I was getting real nervous seeing Mabud teleport into that play. It looked like he was super deep in with only Sarcasm for the backup, but Psycho, willing to play aggressively on the Tristana, jumps over the wall, guarantees that they can get the reset onto Castle, and from there are able to win out the fight. Now Baron buff in their pockets is going to put Team Ambition back in the gold lead and back with control over the map.
The big point off the back of that fight for me is that Psycho still has Cleanse and Flash. I think Team Ambition overall had to burn more summoners to win, but it helps that you're Tristana, your main damage source on this team for these consistent fights, and what you need really to take down these towers, still has these 2 defensive summoners to keep herself safe.
So Absolutely here. I think Mabud is trying to upgrade another one of his teammates here. He is over at the level 15, so should be able to dole that one on out. Maybe waiting to meet up with Strumpist, though, to make sure that he can give that over to LeBlanc.
Might be a meeting up for another 4
Yeah,
versus
there it
4 or
is.
5 versus 5 here in the mid lane. But will just be Psycho on the bot side, pushing this next wave in. They don't want to overextend and burn this Baron, as there is the Dragon also coming up. So it almost feels like neither of these teams want to fight until they absolutely have to, because this will be sole point for either one of these teams.
Definitely will be. BMD, though, leading the charge, willing to play aggressively here on this Darius. Addition of the Eye of Luden there for Strumpist, going to give him that little bit of extra oomph behind his burst damage. He would really like to get that Rabadon's done, though. He's got both components in his map. He's going to dive in forward onto Castle, chunks Castle to half HP. That is the jungler, with the dragon coming up here pretty soon. So definitely the target you're looking for. Not going to be able to finish him off, but will get them control over this bottom lane river.
I have to believe that's just me a fully given over Dragon. It almost feels like with that burst going on to exactly the right target, but we gotta fight.
Shane CC onto Strumpus. He blinks back just in time, though, as Psycho goes on a killing spree, finishing off onto Turk. Now the Cyclone's coming through for Sarcasm. He's going to be forced to go to the stasis, but he's going to get hit as soon as he comes out. Perfect flash, though. Dodges away from Mark Boots' Shadow Surge, and now with that ability down, a lot of the team fighting power of this Vex goes away with it. Strumpus managing to stay alive with a sliver. Sarcasm managing to stay alive with a sliver, and that might be the difference maker that allows TA an opportunity in this fight. They have to send Sarcasm on a recall or on something to regen up, but they're going to go for the fight anyway. Jumping in onto BMD. He's going to get taken very low. Does manage to finish off one kill there onto Strumpus, but will be taken out in return. And now the resets are coming through for Psycho. Call that a double kill. Moving forward onto Castle. Wants to make it a triple. Sarcasm rejoining the rest of the team. He got a little bit of health back from the Crubs, and that's enough to do the Dragon. Is going to be third Dragon soul point going over to TA main team as they win the fight.
Oh man, what a nail biter right there. Team Ambition thought they could try and bait in Black to a fight in mid. They were just kind of sitting in that lull. Sometimes when the enemy team wins that fight, you're willing to just secede the Dragon. You're not expecting them to just engage on you with all their tools. They go for the fight, and it almost goes the wrong way. Sarcasm getting chunked out so hard, being forced to burn Flash, being forced back into the jungle, almost gave Team Ambition Black an option there to go for the Dragon, but an absolutely insane fight by Team Ambition and a slight misplay from BMD. I'm not sure if you saw it. He had a fully charged Hisana bomb on top of his head and flashed directly on top of Stain. So some mispositioning mistakes here in that fight did allow Team Ambition to come out on top, though, and they will clutch out that victory. And now, securing the soul point, they're getting tankier and tankier. They're taking every objective on the map, and they're slowly swinging this game's momentum back in their favor.
More and more upgrades going to come through from that horn as well. The scaling is in the side of Team Ambition, at least in regards to pure stats. And now with the Rabadon's completed for Strumpist as well, you got to believe that he's going to be able to burst people out way faster, way more substantially, and, you know, a little bit of magic resist coming through for somebody like Castle, but not going to be enough to stand up to this Void Staff LeBlanc. Now she has the opportunity to really get a big chunk done onto pretty much anybody, even BMD at this point.
I like this look from Team Ambition so far. They're sending so many members top to get on top of this tower. They'll have the inner track and a whole lot of vision control on the side of the jungle. It's only Mabud answering mid, but it's not like Team Ambition Black can make it to this mid lane tower and force Team Ambition to respond. They have to get up here to the top lane and make sure they can stop them from pushing on their inhibitor.
Yeah, for sure. Going to be the push in, coming in slowly here. The 5-man squad of TA Black lurking around in the red side jungle. Want to find an opportunity on to be somebody like Strumpist, but he's going to wisely back away. Doesn't want to go in too far.
Just bottom lane crashing here for the side of Team Ambition Black. We'll be forcing a few resets out of this team, as Team Ambition doesn't have a whole lot to play for on the map right now. Just clearing everything out that they can, getting good vision control on the enemy's red side jungle, and slowly starting to set up for this Baron. Did manage to get the Scuttle Crab as well for themselves, so they'll have a little bit of move speed, a little bit of that vision buff, looking for this next fight on the Baron. And honestly, if they manage to get this one with a nice clean ace, it could absolutely be the game. I'm not sure if Black is willing to commit that hard into this Baron, especially with the lack of vision they have in this area. But if Team Ambition can play this one right, bait in a few members, they will absolutely gain yet another massive advantage leading into the Soul.
And the Mauve Malmortius for Psycho, actually a super cool itemization choice here for him, as he's already gone for that Bloodthirster, knowing that he wants to sustain through the burst damage. Ma also going to do a little bit of extra work to prevent Mark Boots from one-shotting him, but also once you proc that Lifeline passive, Lifeline also gives you a whole bunch of additional Omnivamp, so it means that you can pretty much try to
Oh,
drain tank people once you manage to complete that item, as that's a huge burst coming through out of Stain.
Strampus is only 3, 4, and 4, but really is not showing like it, is just dropping huge chunks of damage. You saw him burst out Castle for that last dragon, just now bursting out staying there in the mid lane, continuously being a nuisance here for Team Ambition Black, and we'll have to see what they can do around this Baron. Is if you have vision control around Baron, you have a Blanc on your team, you can constantly do that. Just chunk out enemies all over the place and make sure you'll find yourself an advantage.
Yeah, and that's going to be a long, long depth charge going pretty far away from Turk. The team not going to be able to follow up on that. Trading LeBlanc ult for the Nautilus ult is... Oh my goodness, Strumpus nearly getting himself picked off there. Does manage to blink back to the W, though, and escape. Now, recalling, teleporting back to lane. Stain sees him, looking for maybe a little bit of a chance, but they can't push up far enough. They don't want to walk into Mabud's engage.
That's always the risk. Now, BMD may have had that lane dominant start, but here comes the fight with the Orange Engage.
Coming through onto Stain, he's going to be forced to use the cleanse, now going to be forced into the Feather Storm just to stay alive and avoid that damage. And it's a big three-man Cyclone coming through from Sarcasm, and that's the only opportunity Psycho needs to be able to jump into the fight and take the double kill. Big fight win for Team Ambition main team here. BMD and Mark Boots, the last one standing, just trying to clear out these waves to defend their turrets, but they're going to be forced to back away. They cannot risk staying here up against a five-man squad of Team Ambition.
That right there is what this team is built to do. You find the one target, you pile on the CC, and I love that from Sarcasm. Holding the flash, just waiting, and once Graves or Castle burning flash to get back to the team, stacks this 3, flashing forward to hit the 3-man Cyclone. Absolutely massive team fight win, and it could very well be the game.
Oh, and it's Mark Boots too deep in there, jumps forward onto Pseudo, but Pseudo's not a target that's gonna win you this fight. Ace completed for TA main team, and with minions still alive, that's all she wrote for this game. TA main team going to keep their dreams alive of making it to the main event. 2-2 on the scoreboard. TA Black eliminated at 1-3.
Yeah, it's bittersweet here on the Team Ambition main channel. A team at 2-2, though, does mean we will have this very exciting Game 5 coming up, but shout out to Team Black. They played phenomenally well in that game. Actually made it a very close set here against Team Ambition's main roster, showing up and showing their stuff, constantly skirmishing and making it very close all the way through.
Absolutely, and continue showing this TA Black team some support as they move into their 5th game of the day. Every single win does matter for circuit points. If you're chasing that Proving Grounds berth at the very end of the split, you can still make it in that second OQ. You can still make a deep run and gather yourself enough points to make it towards Proving Grounds, but every points matter. You know, teams like Supernova, last split that Psycho and Pseudo were on, they ended up missing by just about 15 points there. The difference in point allocation between going something like 1-4 and something like 2-3 is 5 points. So you can get yourself some of those extra points right here, right now, even though you won't be able to make it into the main event this time around.
Yeah, it's a little bit sad, but again, there are still all these other chances for them, and we do have a Team Ambition roster moving on to that 2-2. And the opposite channel, actually, Team Ambition Blaze did end up losing their game. So we have got 2 Team Ambition rosters here now locked in at 2-2, and now coming down to this final critical game to try and play for a spot in the open qualifier.
And you can't play the same opponent twice. I'm nearly 100% sure. So we will not get Civil War Round 3, where one of our teams has to eliminate the other once again. Instead, going to be 2 separate matches here, both trying to make it into the main event. Would certainly be a spicy one if 2 TA squads could make it there at 3-2. Definitely be exciting to check out both on the TA2 stream and here. But once again, we are going to have to wait for all the round 4 matches to finish up before we find out our opponents for round 5. So we're going to throw it to another break while we wait our round to find that out, and we'll be back as soon as we can get into draft. Reminder once again, there are going to be 2 $10 RP cards given away there in the Team Ambition Discord after today's games. It's maybe very close to the last chance you get to join on up in the Discord and enter yourself for a chance to win there in the announcements channel. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Unified BGCQ Open Qualifiers here on the Team Ambition stream. We are checking out our final game of the night, the one that will determine who qualifies for top 16 and who ends up going home with a 2-3 record. Will be Team Ambition facing off against DK Crew, the 32nd seed, fighting all the way to 2-2 here. What a Cinderella story it would be for them to make it, but Team Ambition going to stand in their way, going to look to make it all the way.
Ambition looking pretty strong in this last game. Have been locking in that Wukong first pick, so I like that DK is already banning away kind of their comfort round one pick here on blue side. We'll immediately have the rebuttal with Lee Sin and Syndra quickly being locked in as picks for DK.
All right, that is going to be going for Savage in the mid lane. Presumably, it's going to be going Lee Sin for shorter ace. Neither of these are champions that DK have busted out yet in this tournament. So clearly a sort of strategy, an early game aggressive strategy that they've specifically prepared that they want to bust out here up against Team Ambition, a team that has so far had very good early games, I would say. So an interesting decision point for DK Crew for sure. Strumpist hovering the LeBlanc again. They lock in the Ornn that was successful for them last game, and Strumpist is going to take that LeBlanc to face off against Savage's Syndra.
This is kind of what we saw Team Ambition gravitating towards, is much less about the early game style, but more picking into scaling comps. And here on this Team Ambition channel, we've seen a lot of success in these scaling comps. So looking forward to see what they'll bring out in the bot lane. Karma already getting banned out here, and Gwen locked in as a potential counter pick to that Ornn top.
Yeah, absolutely here. Going to be on the lookout for that one. Now, Karma off the board. Could be other supports hitting this ban list. It looks like top lanes, mid lanes, and jungles are selected by both teams. So it's all going to come down to what the bot lanes end up being here. Nautilus being hovered as a ban. Udo played 2 games with Leona today, 2 games with Nautilus yesterday. See if he gets access to those champions once again here. It is going to be the Kaisa ban, actually.
It's an interesting one. Haven't seen much Kaisa success so far on this channel at the very least, but certainly, I mean, you're looking to ban out one of those more aggressive bot lanes that could help dive in with the Lee Sin kick on top of a Syndra stun. There's a lot of options for her to enter into fights and finish off a low HP target.
There certainly are here. Jinx taken off the board. Renata Glask going to join the list here. That was one that was already played by DK Crew earlier today. They paired it up with the Kog'Maw. Saw some difficulties from Team Ambition up against Kog'Maw earlier tonight. This feels like it's not really the comp for it, though. The Gwen Lee Sin, not really the front line that you want to set up for a pick like that. It's going to be the Aphelios locked in for Evan RL.
Not quite the Kog'Maw, but still kind of has the ability to match that DPS output. I would say a little bit less safe with the lessened range on Aphelios' kit, but still a very strong AD carry here in the bottom lane, helping DK scale up into that late game, despite these early game focused topside picks.
Absolutely here. Now Psycho and Pseudo knowing only that they are up against Aphelios. The opportunity to lock in a couple of champions here. Xayah Rakan, an option that's available. The Xayah is going to get chosen. The Leona, still available as well. Nautilus, still available as well. So, pick of the litter here for Pseudo. That Nautilus has been super highly prioritized by basically everybody. Would be able to interrupt some of those Lee Sin dashes. Would be a great pick tool against the relatively immobile Syndra and Aphelios. Getting hovered here. Very likely going to be the lock-in, although all of those picks I mentioned would be good against these low mobility targets. The Nautilus is going to be the choice.
No surprise here, this has been a big favorite of Nelv's throughout the draft, even mentioning during our interview on Monday that he really likes just the flexibility that this support pick has. It can just do so much for your team. Everyone loves having a Nautilus on the squad and will really help assist in kind of the pick style that Team Ambition tends to play around. Stompus again on the LeBlanc will definitely be looking to burst down the targets that Nautilus looks to lock down.
Ooh, that is a support set that appears to have been locked on in here for the DK crew. So going to look for a little bit of brawling power up against this Nautilus and some nice engage potential as well there. Able to get on in there potentially with some flash face breakers. Going to look for some showstoppers to carry somebody like Ornn back into the team. Somebody like the Nautilus also be a good target for that one. But an interesting choice for sure for Clyde. Excited to see how this one works out for him.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a long time since I've actually seen the set support in competitive. Of course, it still does all those things like you mentioned very well. It will play fairly well into this composition. Not a whole lot of kiting potential on Team Ambition outside of the Xayah, but most of this team wants to walk into them. And Xayah's Featherstorm, while very effective against dive compositions like what we saw last game from Team Ambition, I think might be a little bit less effective in this game against a team that kind of wants to just skirmish against you.
Absolutely here. And a skirmishing comp, in the early game, feels like Team Ambition have played really, really clean, especially with Sarcasm. His pathing has been super intelligent. He's always been where he needs to be. And when facing off against something like a Lee Sin, that's kind of what you want to see. You want to see Team Ambition start to build up that early lead. But once we get into skirmishes, that's where stuff has been going wrong for Team Ambition. It's where, they've kind of lost that control a little bit, haven't all been on the same page, have not had these great engages that they're looking for. And up against something like a Lee Sin, something like a Syndra, something like a Set, that's where that starts to feel really dangerous. So it at least feels, looking from the outside, like DK Crew, they've done a little bit of research here on Team Ambition. They saw how the games have been going, and they've optimized their team comp in order to accomplish that. But TA, they feel like they're set up really well for the scaling here. The Ornn upgrades, once again, going to be super valuable, going to be great with something like this Graves and with this Xayah coming into the later game. They should be able to threaten picks like this Aphelios really effectively with their LeBlanc, with their Nautilus. Just need to find a way to navigate through those skirmishes and not let Shorter Ace and Savage bust open the game.
Yeah, really looking at Strampus here this game to find that damage onto either the Syndra or the Aphelios this game. Did an amazing job in that last game getting constant damage onto the enemy Nautilus, on enemy jungler at the right time when they were playing around objectives, and even bursting out the enemy ADC a few times. So really looking at Strampus again this game. Also looking at Strampus to try and play a lot with Sarcasm. We saw in the game that Sarcasm had on Graves the insane CS lead he built up against his opponent in the jungle, and it was all due to some really intelligent pathing and some nice plays from the rest of the team, always looking to shove in and then roam to match with Sarcasm to make sure they could secure those camps for the Graves jungle.
Yeah, absolutely here. And we saw a solid mid lane performance from Strampus last game, facing off against it was the Vex last time. This time around, he gets the counter pick. He chooses to go up against this Syndra. Syndra does have some options, can scatter the weak LeBlanc out of that dash combo, but definitely a little bit of a better matchup for Strampus here. Really excited to see what he's going to be able to get done up against Savage.
Exciting indeed. And then they're in the bottom lane. I think the one thing we're all a little bit worried about is Nautilus. I feel like game after game we're seeing Nautilus just get picked off first in these fights. Has utilized the hook very well. Pseudo doing an amazing job on Nautilus in most of the games to find really meaningful picks. And not really throwing a hook to that led to his own death, but rather it was just a bad situation for the Nautilus to be in. So really looking at him to utilize this champion's pick to its fullest. Did also see some really good roams into the mid lane from Pseudo last game, and I wouldn't be surprised to see another Hex Flash Nautilus teleporting to mid and making sure they can pick off Savage a few more times in this game.
Yeah, back on the tier 1 support for Pseudo this time around. He's taken the Nautilus every time it's available. Played 2 Leona games today, once because the Nautilus was banned, once because the Nautilus had been picked away from him. Now going to be back on it this time around. We're going to throw it once again to a break while we get loaded onto the Rift for the final time here. Reminder, there is going to be a giveaway going on the TA Discord here. You can roll up into that announcements channel, react to Protz's post for a chance to win one of 2 $10 RP cards. We will be doing that right after the games tonight, regardless of the result. I'll definitely want to participate in that one. But first and foremost, got a really, really intense game here between Team Ambition and DK Crew. One will be making it to that group stage, to that top 16. One will have to call it quits until OQ number 2 with a 2 and 3 finish. It's all on the line here, and we're going to bring every bit of it to the stream when we come back. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's stream of the Unified PGCQ Open Qualifier. Team Ambition facing off against DK Crew. See who is going to be making it into that top 16. A 3-2 record is all it takes to be able to make it into the group stage. 2 and 3 will not be enough in either case, though, and will eliminate that team from contention for the first Summer Open Qualifier. All going to come down to the line here, Slowpan. Only one team's going to move forward. Definitely going to be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, it all comes down to this. It's what casters dream of and what team managers fear. One game away from either qualifying into the next stage of the Open Qualifier, and one game away from elimination. It'll either be Team Ambition or DK. And DK Crew, like you mentioned, this is a 32-seeded team. I feel like they've had a chip on their shoulder this entire time, taking down teams much stronger than them, at least in terms of seeding. And they've managed to make it here. But will it be Team Ambition cutting that story off at the ankles, or will they get their glass slipper and finally get to go home?
Absolutely, here would be what they want to happen. Would be Clyde and Evan RL looking to get aggressive in this bot lane before the minions even hit each other. They are going to be able to pick up that ward in the mid brush. Means that Psycho and Pseudo are going to play a little bit on the back foot here. They don't want to risk getting stunned up by Clyde's set. He's likely going to start that face breaker. Going to be able to be pretty aggressive with the stun potential there. The Strompist is looking to trade with High Key Savage. Dodges out of the first Dark Sphere. That's going to do a lot for him in the mid lane.
A nice trade there by Clyde, basically solo trading here on this bot lane, but it's a level 2 from Graves.
Yeah, Sarcasm coming on down, looking to finish off on a Clyde. Clyde going to be forced to flash away. Evan RL's the next target. He's going to have to expend the heal. Both bot laners survive, but it's a big summoner spell trade. Psycho and Pseudo actually both using all of their summoner spells, so Clyde and Evan actually end up ahead. Oh, but Strompist looking for the solo kill here. Ooh, no very close against High Key Savage. Very nearly taking him down. No Ignite available for either party. Ignite would have swung that, though, in either way.
Oh, Pseudo getting a little bit aggressive. Both these teams, man, no fear from anyone this game. Clyde trading so aggressive there. Sarcasm looking for the early gank instead of going for the usual Graves farming route. Just so much aggression from Ambition and DK, willing to go blow for blow with each other this game.
Yeah, for sure. Bud moving forward up against Lawrence as well, getting the push early on this Ornn. Trying to get aggressive with that Bellows Breath, too. The Ornn can be super strong in the early laning phase, and Lawrence has to respect that. Trying to be just clearing on out as best as he can.
Will be the early recall here from Team Ambition's bottom lane. Getting definitely, I would say, a better reset over Evan RL here. They should be able to get back to lane and establish control, but there's some pings here in River. Looks like High Key with his health advantage wants to try and move to help, but Sarcasm, I think, it's already out of this one.
Yeah, Savage not quite going to be able to pull that one off, so going to be forced to move away. Bud, Lawrence still trading up in this top lane. Shorter Ace been looking around for a potential gank opportunity, but thus far hasn't been able to do anything up against the Lee. Has a big CS lead over Sarcasm, though. As Clyde gets hooked, but is able to keep himself pretty safe. How tanky set can be in the early game.
Yeah, I think maybe missing out a little bit on the pullback. Although I think Psycho may not even taken it here. Does, I believe, go QW early on the Xayah for that early poke. So maybe not even the option to try and get the snare there on the side. But either way, had the Aphelios walking up and they weren't going to be able to find that option.
Absolutely here. Lawrence laning up against Mabud here, perhaps known better as Speedo by many individuals here, getting traded against up by Mabud here, going incredibly low, but Shorter Ace is in the area to turn around the play. Mabud gonna have to try to find a way to dodge out on this. Really wanted to fight up against that low HP Gwen, but Shorter Ace shows up just in the nick of time to save his top laner.
And it's pathing into top lane. We got more longer fight going on here.
Yeah, Sarcasm looking for the trade onto Shorter Ace. Not going to be able to out-trade this Lee Sin at this point in the game, though. Shorter Ace really has the point of power in the early game. Is going to fully utilize it there, chunking Sarcasm to below half HP.
It also helps that Shorter Ace, as a result of not going for the early level 2 gank, was able to get that recall timer off so early. Hex Flash might be a way in, but this might even be a dive if you're on a Mabud.
Yeah, Sarcasm waiting around to try to respond to the dive. Clyde going to manage to land the stun, though. That's going to be first blood picked up by Shorter Ace. He takes the safeguard out of there. Clean gank in the top lane for the DK Crew. Strompist not able to get up there in time.
DK doing exactly what they need here with this composition. Look for those early dives, be aggressive, and do not relent. Sarcasm didn't have the chance to recall, and so was just so much weaker in the 1 versus 1 compared to Lee Sin. Not able to do anything there underneath the turret, but now has Lethality Dagger in his pocket and should have some ability to do some amount of damage.
Absolutely. Here's Psycho and Pseudo now getting aggressive onto Evan, though. They know that Clyde is in the top lane, but Lawrence TPs to the turret to respond. Pseudo left out to dry is going to go down. Lawrence picks up his first kill of the game. That is exactly where you want that gold to land there. The top laner getting started early on with a kill out of the support.
Yeah, Team Ambition this game really doesn't have anyone to answer the Gwen in the side lane. Ornn certainly going to struggle there in that matchup in the 1 versus 1 at the very least. Strumpus not exactly the best option either. It's just won't have the wave clear to match that Gwen there in that lane. So good person to get this gold onto. Mabud will trade it out for at least one turret plating here in the top lane, but certainly not where he wanted to be, especially diving so deep with Psycho.
Nice snare there, landed onto Clyde with the Blade Caller, but not going to be any follow-up available quite yet. Sarcasm is in the area. Both junglers showing up to the bottom lane. Evan, pretty low on HP. They go for the root onto Psycho. He's going to get a lot of damage onto him, but does manage to flash out for the escape. Now here comes Sarcasm on the backside, getting some good damage there onto short racing Clyde, chasing Clyde the rest of the way down. There's going to be a big haymaker coming on out, but he's got nowhere left to go. Pseudo finishes off that kill, and Strumpist has arrived in the bottom lane as well, getting a little bit of a timer advantage over Savage, but not going to be able to turn it into anything.
Yeah, certainly not what you wanted to happen there. The gold does end up going on to Pseudo, but they do manage to get a kill. They clean up Clyde. And like you mentioned, this will be a slight advantage over here to Sarcasm, who now has some time on the map to just do whatever they want. And it will be just targeting the Scuttle Crab, their own red buff, and trying to farm up and now create this advantage against Lee Sin. Despite not having that, super early on farming lead, this is still Sarcasm on the Graves and slowly starting to scale up this lead over the Lee Sin.
Absolutely, here was behind a lot of camps at one point due to just how much responding he had to do, but now getting back in, getting competitive again. Savage with a little bit of a level lead over Strumpist, trying to push that advantage, has a good CS lead as well, as Strumpist has been trying to unlock himself, trying to find roams to these side lanes to respond to these ganks. He's just been a little bit off on the timers though, pretty much every time. And has just meant that Savage has built himself a lead for pretty much nothing here. Going to go for the stun, not going to land it. Dodge away from shorter Ace's Sonic Wave there. Got to keep Strumpus safe.
Certainly dangerous there. But look at this. Clyde just now hit level 4 there in the mid lane. Was level 3 on that attempted realm. Very risky going into a level 7 LeBlanc. I know that set's got the massive shield he can pull out, but still a little bit dangerous here when you're playing on such a low level compared to the solo laners.
Talking about Lawrence earlier on, finishing that point here, this is a guy that we really have to be keeping an eye on this game as somebody who could pop off, especially now that he's got an early kill on the Gwen. A big mainstay on that C9 amateur roster last year. Got to play even a little bit on C9 Academy this past split. Really going to be looking to utilize that experience here in this clutch situation up against Mabud.
And doing a great job so far this game. Already has the 1 kill to their name. Missed it on a little bit of farm, but that teleport was critical in keeping DK's bot lane alive. And now getting chased down a little bit here, and there is Sarcasm for the pincer.
Showing up, Gwen is immune for at least a little bit longer, going to avoid some of the damage, but that's going to be a fair bit coming through onto Lawrence. Strumpus is arriving to the play, but Bud finishes off the kill onto Lawrence. Meanwhile, there's a pick at the bottom side. Psycho coming on through, though, gets a lot of damage done onto Clyde, but flashed over the wall from Evan RL to finish off the kill onto Pseudo. Is going to be a 1-for-1 cross-mapped. Lawrence taken on out by Mabud, but Pseudo taken down by Evan. Psycho now sees an opportunity to take the 1-versus-1 up against the opposing AD carry. Gets a nice blade caller through, but Clyde's presence still means that he has to back away and he has to play respectfully.
Yeah, just needs to be out of the range of that face breaker. Clyde could just end up dashing on forward, give it a little bit of movement speed. If Psycho even mispositions slightly, it could even mean a Hex Flash into this face breaker, and that would certainly be a kill with the damage that Evan RL has. A nice play from DK's bot lane, now trading back, getting a little bit of revenge, and killing the TA support in their own jungle.
Yeah, but between that kill that they just got, as well as the teleport into the bot lane from Lawrence earlier on, though, Mabud has built himself a pretty sizable lead here. It's up about 14 CS as the waves crash once again, using that to build himself items. Lawrence was equalizing that with the kill gold he got up against Pseudo earlier on, but that's now been equalized by Mabud as he manages to pick up that kill against Lawrence.
I will still say DK is getting this gold onto the right characters. Aphelios with the kill, Gwen and Lee Sin each with their own as well. And Lee Sin already opting for the Gore Drinker build will be fairly easy to sustain in this game, just with all the lower range targets again. It's kind of the game where everyone's diving on the Lee Sin, and therefore Lee Sin should be able to hit 3 or 4 in fights with the Gore Drinker procs.
Dragon number 1 falls here at 10 minutes into the game. A very late first dragon means that Soul is going to be a long ways away, even if DK Crew does try to stack that one on up. Means that not going to be likely a brawl around the Soul as we've seen in quite a few TA games so far today and yesterday. Going to instead be a little bit more about the team fighting, maybe a little bit more about the Baron.
Look at this, Umbral Glaive already completed here for Sarcasm, so the Vision Denial is on the table. It is so frustrating playing as a support into this item. You just feel like you have no way to get any kind of vision on the map for your team, and we're going to see what Sarcasm can do here to make sure they can black out the map for DK.
Lawrence getting a big trade there on a Mabud, chunking out the Ornn very low, and his teleport very close to off cooldown, but not quite there yet. This is a real unfortunate timer for Mabud. Gonna be real awkward as he feels like he needs to stay to pick up the wave because he can't teleport back quite yet. Now he can channel the recall.
Pings on the way bot lane. Pseudo and Psycho feels like they may have seen this one though. I believe walking over that pink ward in the jungle, they should be able to play safe underneath their turret, not run into any kind of funky engage here in the bottom lane.
Real dangerous times for Mabud as he's got to be worried about Lawrence's potential dive as the Ghost is also coming off cooldown. Lawrence is going to look to try to aggressively interrupt this. It looks like they're calling Sarcasm towards the top lane, though, to potentially interrupt this. Mabud maybe giving away the Ghost a little bit, though, as he steps up aggressively, canceling his own recall.
Yeah, Lawrence wisely sniffing that one out. Does have to burn the Ghost, but
in
it's
the
another
bottom
engage.
lane, Pseudo finds his way onto Evan, and that's going to be a kill in the 2 versus 1 for Psycho and Pseudo, getting themselves back into it.
Man, where did that come from? They must have just seen the enemy support, Clyde kind of walking out into their wards there. The pink ward on their own red buff being very effective for them this game and allowing them to be this aggressive. They spot out a roam from mid, they spot out the support in the jungle, and they just pull the trigger on the engage, quickly killing Evan RL through those lack of summoner spells on the Aphelios.
Can't help but laugh at the ruler signature on this Xayah skin, by the way. If you haven't seen it before, pay close attention to when Psycho's recalling. Ruler's signature, that's something else on that skin. Shout out to Psycho for bringing that one on out here. And shout out to Psycho for picking up a solid kill there against Evan RL. The first one of the bot lane went over to Pseudo. We were lamenting that a little bit, but the second one goes right where it belongs onto the Xayah. That's going to give him a little bit of an itemization advantage here over Evan RL. He's already got nearly a 20 CS lead, and now with the kills equalized, really has a good opportunity to hit the mythic item Power Spike before Evan RL does.
They certainly want to get these mythics online as quickly as possible. Right before this next dragon spawns, they can stop the Soul Snowball in its tracks. Team Ambition coming out to a little bit of a lead here and already clearing out the vision around this dragon. Kind of tells me that they do want to try and go for this one.
What they're looking for, going to be a while before the next dragon's available, so can spend their time doing whatever they please. A couple of turret plates have gone towards Mabud in this top lane, but Lawrence, now with the Riftmaker complete, feels like he could take these brawls a little bit more effectively, and he's definitely correct about that. A lot more regeneration, a lot more sustain due to the Omni Vamp it provides. Definitely avoiding the Bellows Breath there to avoid getting more and more brittle procs on top of him.
And I like this proxy farming move from Lawrence. It might mean that if he kills this wave, he can actually, and I think he will need to get one more at least, but if he kills the next wave, it means that Lawrence can just walk into this dragon fight. We've got a fight on our hands.
It's going to be a big showstopper coming forward onto Sarcasm. He's got nowhere left to go. He's going to get locked down by 3 members, and Shorter Ace going to pick that kill. Now they're going to move farther back in the bottom lane. Psycho and Pseudo going to have to play this very carefully. Flash hook attempt from Pseudo doesn't end up landing, but they do get the depth charge. A big pull through on the Blade Caller from Psycho. Trying to get the trade back on, but it's just not going to work out. Pseudo falls down. Psycho stays safe, but he's going to have to forfeit presumably this bottom lane turret. They have no real response options available. Strampist just pushing in the mid lane.
Yeah, forfeit indeed, just pulling away from the tower. Psycho not willing to give him away a kill on top of it all. But that kill just came out of nowhere. I don't know what happened to Sarcasm, but gets blown up by 3 roaming members from the DK crew. Bongo Bash there in the jungle, and it does mean that the turret will be taken in the bot lane.
Absolutely. Moving back, Strampist still laning pretty well against Savage. Savage has built himself up a little bit of a CS lead, but he's been holding his own thus far, but hasn't been able to get any of the roams off, hasn't been able to pick up any kills to start snowballing on that LeBlanc. Really is what you're going to be looking for on this pick for Strampus to get himself a lead and to try to actually start threatening to one-shot people.
Yeah, looks like they got 3 members top here. Might be able to threaten the Rift Herald. I'm not sure if they know that Lawrence is actually backed, though, so might still be a chance for DK to try and contest this. No Herald's taken. This will be a very late Herald in the game, actually. And I don't think a second one will spawn at this point, as now ticking past the 15-minute mark here. No plates available to really use this on either. Not a great Herald attempt, but you mean, if the objective's there on the map for you to take and you know you want to contest this dragon, it's the next best thing for you to be able to be doing.
Absolutely. Here, push up from Mabud, trying to get those procs onto the turret of his Demolish, trying to finish off that turret, try to equalize the global gold a little bit, get himself a little bit more money, but second dragon will get picked up with ease by the DK crew. Oceans bring life, as it is going to be Ocean Rift for our game number 5. Would definitely be super valuable for either team that would be able to pick it up.
I think Team Ambition obviously a little bit more tanky. And Mabud really looking towards that wistfully, as he can't do much to affect the dragon right now in the top lane, kind of trapped up here by Lawrence's pushing pressure. Can't exactly lead the lane as he wants to start to go down. Did have the teleport advantage in that last fight, but unfortunately unable to utilize it. So they got a few members over here in mid. Could look to try and drop Herald on one of these towers and just force something down and earn some of this gold back.
Chasm, pushing up into the jungle, has his Umbral Glaive completed, so can clear through these wards really, really quickly. Even the control wards go down in 2 auto attacks, which is just as many as Graves has in the shotgun there, so it works out pretty well for him. Psycho and Pseudo up towards the mid lane. Going to be a big stun landed by Clyde, but Pseudo's tanky enough that he should be able to shrug that one off.
Yeah, fairly easy for him to just shrug that one off, like you mentioned. Clyde trying to pull him in, trying to find some kind of trade, but really at this point, this is kind of where every team's playing safe, right? No one needs to be playing for any kind of objective. You don't need to shove in any waves. You just play your lane, play as safe as you can, and make sure you don't get picked off by any kind of crazy roam. There is Heike Savage, though, hitting this turret in the bottom lane. Might open up something for someone to move somewhere else.
Shorter Ace, 3-0 on this Lee Sin, by the way. Really propelled himself ahead of the course of the game a little bit. Even though he's falling behind in CS to Sarcasm, he's still keeping up in itemization. It means that he's really got that one-shot potential against some of these squishies. Know how much Lee Sin is capable of doing if he can get the right angles, if he can land the skills, if he can utilize the execute damage that he gets off of Sonic Wave. Will really mean the end of anybody that he manages to find his way onto. Perhaps save Mabud. He's going to get pretty tanky as this game continues, but keep an eye on Shorter Ace, see what angles he's able to find, see what picks he could potentially create for the DK crew.
Keep in mind, they have like the double displacement composition here. Clyde on set can also look to try and hex flash or just flash over a wall if they manage to find a flank and pull a target into their team rather than throwing the target into their own team and using the HP to do as much damage as possible. You have a lot of options for this team to try and pick off one of these members and just ruin the team fighting composition dream here for Team Ambition.
Definitely. Moving up towards the top side, they want to try to pressure this top outer turret. It's already fallen pretty low due to a couple of demolished procs from Mabud. They're going to try to give this money over to Strompist. Try to find a way into the game through different means, since he hasn't been able to get the kills so far. Will cash out a fair bit of local gold. Finishing off this turret, 300. In the pocket of LeBlanc now. Basically a kill, as he gets donated that in the top lane.
I think they may have had an option there to try and drop the Herald mid and get as much damage down as possible, but won't crack this one open just yet. Looks like they're trying to ping out this tier 2. And they're sending 3 members top to make sure it happens. Strompus, of course, already sitting up top. They're going to claim this red buff and maybe look to try and claim a dive onto this tower.
Very possibly. Savage going to show here that he is the one defending the turret, and they're going to feel pretty good about that. Perhaps even better than if it had been the Gwen defending, clearing out Wave, throwing down the Rift Herald. Not going to be too much of a defense staged by Savage, but Savage actually gets a big stun there. Nearly one-shot Sarcasm, but he's able to escape as Psycho now diving on in. Pseudo going to be the one who has to finish off that kill. Psycho flashes away, but it's met in turn by Clyde, who picks up a big haymaker and then a big showstopper into the back line, falling incredibly low here, but Sarcasm can't quite finish off the kill. Strompist flashes forward, goes for the distortion, manages to finish him off with some auto attacks, then blinks back one more distortion to create a little bit of distance away from Lawrence, but Lawrence is chasing him down with a huge pair of scissors, and Shorter Ray is going to follow as well. Lawrence picks up that kill. 4 dead for Team Ambition for just 2 on the side of DK.
They get the turret, but at what cost, man? It hurts to see. It's overstaying their welcome just a little bit too long. They wanted to try and get this turret down and more, but unfortunately, the response was good from DK. Diving in deep, you saw Strompus burning Distortion, but it was this early stun from Heike Savage that just did so much damage and staunched this attempted push in its tracks. Psycho, of course, burning so many tools to go deep, but then it was this support set on top of you, using the flash to find the kill, and just being so effective here, making sure he can contribute as much as possible to the fight. Shorter Ace finally completes the rotation on over, and when there's an Ornn on the opposite side of the map, there's not much for DK to really be worried about, or even for Team Ambition to try and trade for this. So good play here by DK, recognizing that Ornn wasn't able to do much on the opposite side of the map, and just make the play happen while they're missing that Call of the Forge God.
Absolutely here, teleport coming through from Mabud to regroup with the rest of the team is about a 1.5k gold lead to the side of the DK crew. Definitely going to want to contest this next dragon, though. Big 3-man stun from Savage, though, going to chunk Psycho just a little bit. Strumpist sees them coming towards the bottom side. They're going to try to threaten the Baron instead of contesting Dragon here. Strumpist pretty caught out, though. Ooh. Gets hit by another Sonic Wave. There's the kick. There's the execute. Shorter Ace gets a solo kill and goes unstoppable.
All bad here for Team Ambition. A solo kill in the jungle for Shorter Ace onto the mid laner. They're using Aphelios to take the dragon solo, and then they even send multiple members top to make sure they can stop this Baron attempted sneak away from Team Ambition. DK doing a great job denying every possible option here to Team Ambition.
We talked about Shorter Ace earlier, getting himself that early lead, still continuing to push it here. He's got the execution potential, even onto somebody like the LeBlanc. Finds himself the nice ward hop there, gets the lockdown off the Dragon's Rage, and can execute down that kill. Baron plan going to have to be abandoned for Team Ambition following that pick. It's going to be Soul Point picked up for DK.
Kind of feels like, yeah, all that's left here is now the Baron for Team Ambition to play around. Soul not up for another 5 minutes means that they don't really have any turrets they can take. They don't want to play towards the bottom side of the map, and Ornn isn't the split pusher that they can send down there to get any kind of work done. Strumpist does have the teleport, might be the option for the team, but really at this point, when you're so far behind, you kind of feel like you have to keep your full 5 with you at all times in case DK uses one of these tools in their kits to find a pick and start a fight.
Yeah, they do have maybe a little bit of a flank option here from Pseudo, but he's just channeling the recall. They got to be careful about the inside track on this mid lane, though. Potentially getting their inner turret threatened. Mabud showing up to this play. Going to be the only one stopping Lawrence from the push, but he is going to be enough to clear out the wave.
Mid lane stopped here for now. Will be the minions meeting up in the middle, and this might be the engage option as they have cleared out some vision, and I think I see a Hex Flash being channeled.
Yeah, Mabud dashing away. That's going to be a big 3-man smoke screen landed by Sarcasm. Does stop the engage for now. Strumpist gets a little bit of chunk of damage into the back line. Now has to wait for his ultimate to come back up. Going to be healed up pretty quickly, though. They're still just dancing around this Baron. It's the only major objective up. The side waves aren't in too crazy of a position. Somebody going to have to respond to top lane on the side of DK eventually. No opportunities to move in and get anything else for Team Ambition.
It really hurts that this mid lane turret is still up for DK. They just can't push past this, and it's denying their ability to shove in waves and get deep vision on this team. They have some good wards around this Baron, but that'll quickly be cleared out once DK shoves out mid and sends their own support and jungle. Or really just the support here and the top laner are the only two options that have the sweeper, but with Lawrence being in bot lane, it'll actually be kind of hard for them to reclaim this vision around Baron.
Gonna be tough. They do try to push on in here. They have Clyde using the scanner, trying to clear it out, but it's gonna be a little bit less mobile than maybe some supports. Can't Spider-Man his way out the way that a Nautilus does, but no pick opportunities found for Team Ambition. And in the side lane, it's starting to get difficult for Lawrence, or for Mabud rather, up against Lawrence. He had the CS lead for a while, but you can see Lawrence has built that back up over time and can just keep shoving these waves into Mabud all day long. The damage from Ornn not really carrying through into the later game, and the damage from Lawrence is enough to keep the pressure on and the waves cleared.
Yeah,
Ooh,
is ionizing so heavily actually towards this MR and towards this split push. He knows that Lawrence wants to keep him out in the solo lane. Just with Lawrence having this massive lead, it does mean he's going to be able to do just that. So I like this Force of Nature pickup. Should allow him to remain tanky and remain healthy in the 1v1. At the very least, long enough for his team to be able to rotate over and pick up a 1-for-1 kill if Lawrence decides to go super aggressive.
Yeah, interesting choice here from Psycho. Goes for the Lord Dom second. So is going to be looking to dish out maybe a little bit more damage to Clyde, maybe work his way through Shorter Ace, who does have the Death Stance. And they do have a good opportunity here to push into the mid outer turret. They do secure that for themselves, but it has left bot lane all alone for Lawrence to do some solo work on.
Looking to get this wave shoved in. Lawrence recognizing the threat and is just going to end up looking for the recall. Entire side of Team Ambition wants to back here, but that could mean the Baron could be threatened for Team Ambition. And really, DK Crew could also even threaten the Soul. All the objectives are spawning right now, and with Team Ambition wanting to back, it makes it really hard for them to play for anything.
Horn upgrades starting to come through now. It is going to be the Typhoon in the hands of Psycho. Presumably, since he's level 14 now, he's also upgraded the Sunfire Cape, or the Sunfire Aegis, as it's now called. But, well, not quite being able to distribute it to the rest of the teammates yet, but will be a little bit of extra gold that isn't shown by the gold lead.
Looks like they want to try and contest this one. They're shoving up mid at the very least. We got the full 5-on-5. That's a hook on in.
Hook landed onto Clyde, was hoping for it onto Lawrence, but Lawrence is immune. Clyde could be able to finish off that kill onto Pseudo. Now Lawrence leading the charge forward. Flash in from short range, goes for a big kick onto Strompus, but doesn't get the right angle, and instead gets shut down by the very member he was looking to kick in. Strompus gets that big 800 gold value, but is going to have to back away as Lawrence is very powerful with those scissors, and he's going to be forcing out every member of Team Ambition, getting his team to track on towards the dragon, but Team Ambition, they can't call it quits quite yet. Strompus is going to have to teleport back to the fight because they want to contest this Dragon Soul.
You can tell they want this one so bad. You have Psycho kind of hovering towards top lane, but looks like they managed to find their angle on in. They have the mid wave. The Dragon's getting low.
Oh, that's a big stun coming through from Savage, and Savage is just gonna destroy Sarcasm there. The trade comes back through onto Clyde, but the Dragon Soul has been secured for the DK crew, and they're gonna use it to carry through the rest of the fight. They finish off onto Strompus and are now moving forward onto Mabud. They get dose kills as they move on up towards moving for Baron. Really big play there by DK crew. They've got the soul now. They've got the opportunity for the Baron, and they've got 4 kills to their name as well.
2 shutdowns to Strompus' name, but it's not enough to turn the tides. LeBlanc trying to do what they can to pick off one more member there. You saw the target was High Key Savage, but just didn't have what they needed in the kit to take down the Syndra. That's 4 members strong now on the Baron for this team, certainly going down. And that's the DK crew with this recall, resetting back into this map, looking so incredibly strong with the Ocean Soul in their pocket as well.
Big plays there by DK. Now 5k gold to the lead. The Dragon Soul at their backs. That's going to more than offset anything that Ornn is bringing to the table from his upgrades. And now looking very tough for Team Ambition to play through the rest of this. They do still have at least a little bit of reliance on, weakness from Lee Sin in the late game. Potentially spotting out his engage opportunities, potentially stifling them wherever possible, relying on the scaling from this Graves, but it's a very, very tough scenario to play through now, especially up against this Gwen, who is so powerful at 3 items completed.
Gwen shoving it in mid lane and keeping Psycho tied to this mid lane, as it's only Graves and Nautilus right now to try and defend this tier 2. These are always the most diveable towers, and you'll often see teams just give these one up. And that looks like that's what Team Ambition wants to do. They're just gonna let DK push in this tier 2 tower and look to try and defend mid instead.
Sarcasm dodging out on that stun from High Key Savage, but not going to be able to return too much damage from it. Push coming through with this Baron buff with the Dragon Soul rather as well. So difficult to respond to from Team Ambition. They have to look for some kind of miracle opportunity. Maybe a big Ornn ultimate onto some squishy members could give them the opening they want.
Between Sarcasm and Psycho, they have a fair amount of wave clear here to try and hold down the base, but it's relentless now. Even looking to throw out the ultimate for just a little bit of poke will root up Psycho there, but the engage is here.
Big hook landed there onto Savage. He's going to get blown up right as the fight starts, and this could be what Team Ambition we're looking for. Big face breaker. CC's up 4 members, but nobody goes down. 2 kills for 0 for Team Ambition. Now moving forward onto Lawrence, who was able to take out that mid inhibitor turret in the meantime.
They're holding the line here. Turret and bottom barely alive. Mid will fall to Lawrence, but they managed to find a really good fight there. Awesome hook from Pseudo to land onto High Key Savage, bursting him out before the Zonias could even be popped in that fight. And the Ornn ult to follow was just absolutely awesome. We got a replay here to take a look at. Let's look at what happened on this positioning from the Syndra. So you see she's walking up here, throws in the slow. Psycho, of course, in the mid lane there. Now rotating on over to bot, but I think it was all just started out by this Ornn, and then maybe a little bit of over-aggression from Clyde here. Throws out the ult, looking to be a little bit aggressive here. I think Clyde wanted to ult down, but yeah, there it is, just a free hook. Sarcasm with the burst to follow, and Clyde here just completely stuck out all alone. Lands a whole lot of damage, but not enough to take anyone down from Team Ambition.
Yeah, and a good ward by the wall there as well. Spots them the whole way up. They were tracking Savage the entire time as he was pushing up there. Knew exactly the path that he was taking, and that let Pseudo know that he could get ready to throw a hook like that and position in order to do so. Lawrence spotted on this control ward, but even with 4 members around, they don't want to engage onto him. They know it's going to take way too long, and they're at risk of losing their mid lane inhibitor here, but they might lose it anyway. Late arrival from Psycho, but he has enough of a threat that Shorter Ace has to back away. Can't finish it off.
I think they actually had it, but Shorter Ace was probably expecting more members to show up. That inhibitor is one, maybe two if you're optimistic, autos away from death. So Shorter Ace certainly, I think, could have stuck around and take that one. Slight misplay here from DK, but they still have the driver's seat. They still have this game looking like it's going to go their way with this Ocean Soul, and they're currently sieging down on this last remaining outer tower that they haven't touched just yet.
Bud has to back away, has the Sonic Wave on him, doesn't want to give a big kick opportunity to Shorter Ace. Now that it's expired, they can try to defend the turret, but the turret's already gone. Now, Strampist all alone, trying to defend against Lawrence here. Gets a big chunk of damage, but what can they really follow up with? Here comes the rest of the squad, try to maybe turn it up against this Gwen, not going to get the chance. They're going to lose a second inhibitor up against DK Crew, pushing and pulling the Team Ambition squad around the map, and they're going to look for that third inhibitor. They're going to look for the bottom one, too. There's going to be locked out onto Lawrence. They're trying to burst him out. They will be able to finish him off, but now their Nexus turrets are getting attacked. Shutdown goes through onto Bud. Now here comes the follow-up fight. Call the Forge God, getting channeled, comes forward onto Savage. Savage already getting blown up. Now there goes a big showstopper from Clyde, but he's all alone. He's going to be able to finish off the kill onto Sarcasm, but does lose his life for the trouble. 3 members down. They're trying to finish off the last 2 here. Strampist looking for the CC there from the chain, going to get the flash out of Evan RL as a result. Moving forward onto Shorter Race instead. He's going to break that one with the safeguard. The 2 members left alive from DK will be able to escape. The complete ace will not come through for Team Ambition, but they do buy themselves the tiniest bit of breathing room.
Man, it was so close that they didn't have anything deeper to teleport to. It was minions in the mid lane. The teleport from Strampist and my bud trying to come out to form the pincer maneuver. Shorter Ace forced to burn Flash Thread, so that'll be down for this next fight. And it's an Elder Dragon now spawning on the map. But it'll be so tough for Team Ambition to try and make this fight work, as it's double teleport for Lawrence and Hikey Savage available for this team. They can teleport into the base and end it off of a wave being anywhere close to their Nexus.
The Elder Dragon here going to be such a big threat. Team Ambition cannot afford to let this go over to the DK Crew. They're going to have to contest here. They're going to have to contest now. They're not favored in the 5-on-5, but they're going to have to make it happen real soon here, because a potential split push from Lawrence would potentially end the entire game. They clear out the vision. They start the Elder Dragon. They're playing proactively. This is what they need to do.
All right, Elder now started, and it's DK pulling the trigger. Here we go. This fight's going to happen. This could very well be it.
Sonic Wave didn't land. That's not going to be the execute damage for Shorter Race. Here comes Lawrence throwing himself into the fight. They are going to be able to secure the Elder Dragon, but the fight looks like it's already over. Psycho gets melted. So does Strampist. So does the entire Team Ambition team. And DK stands for Don't Kill, as they get a complete 5-for-0 ace and are going to qualify for the next phase of the tournament at 3-2. The Cinderella story, 32nd seed, makes it into the main event at 3-2.
And what a play it was there at the very end, just getting into the pit, layering down the AoE. It didn't matter that they picked up the Elder Dragon. Team next stage with the 2-3 record. DK Crew coming up huge.
We
in this
talked
match
about
so
it from Twitter yesterday, Sulpan. The word has been seeding bad, and DK Crew absolutely proven it there. They stand up against all of these unfavorable matchups. They had to play 100 Thieves next in round 1. This has been a very, very tough run of it for them, beating out against some really, really tough opponents, and they make it all the way through here and are now going to play into that group stage. What a great story for this DK Crew team. We feel sad on the Team Ambition side, but certainly if it's got to be to anybody, the DK Crew is a fantastic team to have it happen against.
Yeah, the entire squad of Harrisburg plus 1 member there in Evan RL making up this roster, and they looked so strong today, doing exactly what they needed to do to qualify for that next stage. And like you said, we're sad that Team Ambition didn't make it, but they put up a great showing as well on the day, giving us nail-biter games through and through here on the main channel.
Absolutely here, and a lot to grow and a lot to build on for this second over OQ in the summer here from Team Ambition. They came in as one of these really high seeds, didn't quite make it the rest of the way. Trying to peek on over and see if Blaze's game is already completed, but If you don't find out from me, can at the very minimum hop on over to that Team Ambition 2 stream and see what's going on. I don't see. Oh no, looks like they lost to CLG Faith. So gonna be a go next angle from all of the TA squads here today. Looking forward to that second OQ and what they're gonna be able to accomplish. We're gonna throw it to a quick break now while we yeah, so we're actually just going to call it a night here on the stream. Actually, giveaway will come through tomorrow. Thank you all for entering here today. Thank you all for joining us on the stream as we experience Team Ambition's unfortunate 2 and 3 run. We will, of course, be keeping an eye on all of these other great amateur teams as they continue through the first PGCQ.